We're live on Saturday, the 9th of December, 2023, with this monumental, or maybe just mental, Type 40 Live, your live stream magazine show broadcasting to YouTube, Rumble, and to Facebook, covering the whole whoniverse, both on and off screen. Earlier this evening, as of time of recording, was a third special episode of the greatest TV show of all time. Everybody, yes, I think we may as well just come out and say it, Andy, the greatest television series of all time, Doctor Who, and we're here with the live stream Doctor Who magazine show Type 40 Live to bring you our first reactions, hot takes, cold shoulders, high fives, or pot shots. All's fair in Love, War, and Doctor Who, of course. Doctor Who, the world's longest-running, best-loved sci-fi and fantasy TV series. It returned in its Diamond Anniversary week, beginning a run of 3 specials marking this latest big birthday and heralding this long-awaited, all-important, all-new era. And now it's all done. We're here to talk about the conclusion this time, whichever platform, time stream, or time zone you're joining us from. Welcome. As ever, Type 40 Live Doctor Who is streaming in front of a live chat full of friends, fans, and companions, just like you. Where shall we start? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. We'll find out who you are in a couple of minutes and compare notes on the evening's hour and 5 minutes worth of brand new Doctor Who. The panel are about to materialise as well. We'll get their views and all of yours, whichever platform that you're on. Add your takes to the comment section and we'll get through them, hopefully, with a bit of shuffling the deck here and there as the live stream goes on. Please like the video now, subscribe to the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, check you're still subscribed, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what we're doing next and when we're doing it, as the anniversary year itself, 2023, gradually works its way to a close too. Another massive week here at Type 40 across all the platforms, YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. Our gratitude, as ever, to both the new and returning subscribers and commenters. It's fabulous to get all your takes, for better or for worse. Keep them coming, everybody, throughout the rest of the year, and we'll get back to you whenever we can. Okay. What next? Yeah, well, this series, of course, it's whilst it is a huge cultural touchstone here in Great Britain, it's also a favourite of many more people throughout the world, and it does mean different things to different people. Rest assured, all views are welcome here in the comment section and on the Type 40 Live panel. 60 years is a big chunk of time. Several generations worth of fans have come to the show over the years. Of course they have, at very different times, not just in the series history, but in their own lives and development too. And I think that's quite reflected in Doctor Who. Let's see what we can get into. Let's fill up the console room. You know, I'm really liking this console room. I have to say, I think it's fabulous for the most part. Can't wait to see them add some colour to it, add some trinkets here and there. I've got some trinkets to bring on right now. First of all, joining us, I think he's in the Christmas spirit. At least I hope he is. Let's hope he has a very mega Christmas, of course. Ian David Dears, the mega geek, he's here. Maybe he's not. Brilliant. Thank you, Ian. Okay, Ian is here whilst he's getting himself limbered up. He's probably doing some sort of mouth exercises, isn't he? Oh, yeah, here he is. Go on, it's not a very important stream.
Sorry. No, it's just I've got family around, you know, so I have to apologise for the sound, because you'll hear people talking in the background. So it's just there's a load of family around. So
good evening, mate.
How you doing, right? Yeah, I'm okay.
Not too bad at all. Just putting the hoover around. A lot of kerfuffle in the console room this evening. So I think I've managed to clean it up. Okay. Yeah. I think so. So you're raring to get started, mate? Lots to say.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure. Come around.
We have others about to materialise. Sadly, several of the regulars can't make it, Ian, because they listened to Russell T Davies, the showrunner, when he said it was all going to be about November, that November was Whovember. So people quite understandably booked all of November off and thought they could go out and actually resume their lives when it comes to December. But fortunately for us, we have other people willing to step into the fray, including our mate John Yulden here. Hi, John. Welcome back.
Hi guys, how you doing? All right?
Fabulous, mate. He's smiling.
Cheap.
I
And he's
know.
smiling as
Blimey,
well.
that hour went quick, didn't it?
It did. It did go very, very quick. And I see we've got so many comments to get to in a moment. Have you been since we last spoke? We last had you on. You were on the Destination Scaro show, weren't you? That seems like such a long time ago.
Oh yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago. But yeah, been great. Been watching a lot of classic Who. After the last 2 episodes, but yeah, good to get into this one, get chatting about it.
So, as a catch up, how are you feeling about the brand new TARDIS? Then we've been living with this for a couple of weeks.
I like the console. I would agree with everyone else. Really, it just feels a bit plain at the moment. But you know, get a jukebox in there and a few other things. You know, it'll look great. IKEA sofa, you'll be fine.
Glade plug-in, maybe kind of thing. Yes, I'm really, really keen on this. And although I'm sure, I mean, the Doctor mentioned the fault locator, didn't he? No, he didn't. He mentioned the fluid links, didn't he, in this episode of the show?
He did.
Got a couple of callbacks there.
You know, nice nod to it, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah, the old and the new. So for anybody who's still reeling from the idea that there's a coffee machine in the TARDIS, at least having the fluid link in there will hopefully ease that a little bit. The Doctor and Donna looked fairly at home in this brand new TARDIS, didn't they? It's sort of sad to think that's at least for the time being. But the Doctor, the 14th Doctor, and Donna Noble, but they did make a great team. But there's so much running around in this episode of the show. We did have some character beats as to. There's so much to talk about. I'm not entirely sure where to start. We're going to try and make some sense of it all, because it was a crazy hour or so in front of the television. David Tennant and Catherine Tate, I've seen them back on screen together this last couple of weeks. John, how did that feel to you? Because you did come to the show more so in the 21st century, didn't you? You weren't into it in the classic era.
Well, I was into it in the classic era, but I was glad it came back, but then I kind of helped bring my nieces up, so they got into it.
Oh, I see.
And it was you know, Eccleston, but really it was David Tennant that it took off with them, and they became big fans of it. So it was lovely seeing them back, and yeah, this duo were great, weren't they? In that 2008 series, you know, it was good to see them again.
I feel they're better actors than ever as well at this time in both their careers. I've been really impressed with both of them over the last 2 or 3 weeks. No matter what you think of the previous 2 episodes, I think they've never been less than excellent throughout.
First class. I mean, you can't fault them, really. I mean, you know, they read what they're given and they project what they're given. And, you know, David Tennant, you know, he's first class, isn't he? You know, we were lucky to have him as the Doctor. You know, we might see him again. You never know.
And then to have him again. And then to have him again. Yeah, good luck. We'll see you in 2033, I suppose, David. Yeah. Of course, yeah, the 14th Doctor in the long line of incarnations of the Time Lord. And perfect, really, to lead this anniversary event series. And yeah, it's all over. So when the artwork first started to appear and the episode titles, obviously we all sat there, as Doctor Who fans always do, Ian, trying to crack the puzzle. You know, even the trailers didn't really say much, but now of course we've seen all of it. And so when you go back and look at the trailers, that was from that bit, that was from that bit. It's quite weird having seen it all now, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a bit weird. You know, it was Doctor Who, wasn't it? That's all I can say about it. But, you know, it passed the time as far as I was concerned. There were some nice bits in it, but I was more or less disappointed with it. But, you know. Well,
we'll come to tonight's episode. Do you mean, sure. Well, we'll come to tonight's episode in a moment or two. So, yeah, just to backtrack, everybody, when we last saw the Doctor and Donna, they were at the edge of the known universe, weren't they? Getting to all sorts of scrapes with that little robot that you were so fond of, Ian. Do you remember Jimbo?
I want Jimbo to come back. You know, I just want. Yeah, I love Jimbo. I think Jimbo's great.
There should have been a miniature of Jimbo in the toy shop.
Well, there is. There's going to be one, but what I'm saying is that it's such a waste of a really neat little small idea, because he was on all the posters and you expected him to do something, but took one step and tried to push a button, and that was it. And I was just really disappointed with that. But you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Breathtaking stuff, though. I thought you weren't that keen on last week's, I gather, were you, John? It was less your thing.
No, I didn't enjoy last week's. I just thought it was a lot more padding, really, and I kind of felt it was a bit of a rehash of Midnight, really, with the premise of the alien learning from, or the creature learning from the Doctor. But I enjoyed this one. There's a few things that obviously we'll talk about I didn't enjoy, but I did enjoy certainly the elements for the first half of it. I thought was really good.
Are we talking about Wild Blue Yonder now?
No, on to the next one. Sorry.
Okay, I'll let you know when we talk about the right. Okay, we'll come to that again. We'll come to that in a moment. So just back in track on this though. When we last saw them, they got back to Earth in the present day and been reunited with Wilf, hadn't they? Played by Bernard Cribbins. Now we compared notes on the last Type 40 Live about this moment, about seeing Bernard Cribbins back up on screen. Had you grown up with Bernard Cribbins as well? And how did you feel seeing his face again?
I mean, I grew up with him, and Railway Children, and other shows over the decades as well. And he was great. I always loved him in the Cushion movie that he was in with the Daleks, and it was great to see him again. That made the end of the episode for me. And did you share the last of him?
Did you shed a tear? Did you lose any H2O when all this went down? Go on, you can tell us. We won't tell us all. Go on.
I did.
Good man.
Yeah.
Good man. I didn't. But it's good for you for admitting it. Yeah, live. There's not many people watching. Not many people. Brilliant. Yes. So this was where it ended the last time, and how could we not take that threat seriously, Ian? When we see Wilf's face, if Wilf is saying that the S is going down, we're going to believe him, aren't we? We're going to believe him.
Yeah, I am. I'm quite sad because that we didn't get to see. I got a feeling that he was meant to be in the end sequence as well, but we didn't get to see him and stuff like that. And it's obvious they had a stand-in for him at one point in this episode. So it's a shame, really.
Slightly off where we couldn't see it,
well, somebody was covering him, weren't they? Somebody was covering the shot. So it's a real shame that we didn't get to see more of him. Because Bernard Cribbins is that national treasure as far as I'm concerned anyway, and he's part of my childhood, and he's not someone you can forget like Morecambe and Wise and Two Ronnies and stuff. He's part of that kind of clan, and so unfortunately for me, I'm obviously getting a lot older and these things are coming to pass, and I feel sad about it, but that's just the way it goes, isn't it? So I wouldn't say I miss him, but I would say that I think he should be honoured, basically, and people should think about him. And
definitely.
I think this was a respectful last.
Well, they had no choice, did they? You got to admit they had no choice.
They had one line of dialogue in there, which I understand was taken from a previous episode where you hear him saying, "Go with the doctor, go with the doctor," and that was a line taken from something else. And then we hear him firing a shotgun, don't we, in the background far later on, and that's the last we're gonna see of Wilf. So it wasn't exactly a cameo. I think it was an affectionate tribute and a nod to Wilf. There was also another nod in this episode as well. Before we get into, because I think this could get lost in the discussion, did anybody spot a nod to Wilf, to this fella, to this baddie, long-standing Doctor Who baddie from the past? Anybody see this? You're tittering there, John. Did you spot the tribute there, the nod to Michael Gray?
A little one, yeah.
Go on, where was it? You tell us, where was it?
I'm trying to remember exactly where it was on the show, on the episode now, but I remember chuckling to myself during it.
It was when the guy in the trilby and the long coat was walking into the Toymaker's Emporium. There was a shop either side of the Toymaker shop, wasn't there? And one had a sign above the door that said what? It said grades. It said grades in big letters. I am certain that was a big two fingers to the big fella here who tried to see off Doctor Who all the way back in 1985. How long ago was that? 38 years ago. Go on, there you go, Mickey. You big old mug. How do you feel now, sunshine? Yes, so that made me titter. There was a lot that made me laugh, made me giggle about the Giggle, and there were other things that made me feel all kinds of emotions. And as we get through this edition of Type 40 Live, we're doubtless going to touch on all of that too. Hope you had some snacks. Had some snacks to hand, Ian. Have you got some ready with you now? Did you have some earlier on?
Yeah, that's me with my mince pie. It's Christmas, mate. It's Christmas.
Of course it's Christmas. Of course it's Christmas. And you may well have this on your Christmas list out there. Of course, the entire 60th anniversary trilogy coming out on home media Monday, the 18th of December. So that's just another week and a couple of days to wait there. You get that on DVD, Steelbook, and a standard Blu-ray. It's up on all available retailers there. You can pre-order it and get it under the tree for Christmas and all that jazz. Keep going back to these stories over and over again. And why do we keep on doing this? Why do we rewatch this stuff over and over again? Well, it's all for the love of Doctor Who. I think that's what makes David Tennant keep on coming back to it, actually. Can't keep the geezer away.
The love of Who. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It completely is. And whilst I'm at it, I want to remind you that if you want to hear more of our love for all things Doctor Who, you can get it through our oh, God, I'm so I'm hyper off after that. Yes, so you can get it all at our home feed at type40.podbean.com or across the podcatcher of your choice. There's our latest episode, 60 years of Doctor Who special there, Whoniverse, with myself, Simon, and starry-eyed girl Sarah Graham going through Doctor Who and trying to put the pieces together about how they managed to catch lightning in a bottle with it in the first place. And we go through various things that we love about the show and what makes good Doctor Who. And you also get a commentary track on there to the very first episode too, An Unearthly Child. Never done that before, and people seem to like it, so we probably will be doing that again at some point on the podcast. Now, we do have people out there listening to us rambling on and eager to hear our thoughts and compare with theirs too. So we're going to get stuck into all of that. Before we do though, let's have one of these.
Hi guys, and welcome to Type 40.
Yes, so the 60th anniversary series, a mini-series, an event series of brand new Doctor Who after what seemed like an eternity. So 3-hour-long specials, all written by Russell T Davies, which I appreciate is probably better news for some than for others. You know, I think I wouldn't say that Russell T Davies is a divisive figure or has traditionally been. But this is Doctor Who that we're talking about, and it's quite subjective, the appeal that it has to all of us, really, isn't it? So the idea was that it would recapture the public's imagination, appetite, and affection for the series by bringing back David Tennant, pairing him up again with Catherine Tate as his old friend Donna Noble. And eventually, over the last 2 weeks, God, a lot has gone down in 2 weeks. We've been taken through from one to another until we reached the conclusion in the form of this episode, The Giggle, that aired earlier on. And it was 1 hour and 5 minutes, a blockbuster special on BBC One, as ever domestically, and on Disney Plus in the rest of the world. It's been doing pretty well on Disney Plus. I've been quite impressed with how well it's been doing. I don't know how it's been received by new viewers, but I suppose we'll know over the months how it does, because that's the beauty of having a streaming platform home like that, isn't it, John? Because the episodes, they stay there, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and it will be interesting to see how it does. And I'm curious to see how it does tomorrow as well in the figures when we eventually get to talking about that at some point in the future. Yeah, fingers crossed it does all right.
Yeah, the BBC have been reporting the figures as they always have traditionally, but when it comes to Disney Plus, obviously it's a different kind of science, isn't it? Streaming platforms. I was under the impression they didn't traditionally publish figures, but we do have a sort of chart, don't we? So we can work out, generally speaking, how well or not the episodes are doing. But as the TV landscape changes, I suppose the way that we measure success is going to change as well. And we may eventually keep up. I don't know. But this is what we've been watching tonight. This is The Giggle. And the synopsis, the official synopsis from the BBC said, "The giggle of a mysterious puppet is driving the human race insane. When the Doctor discovers the return of the terrifying Toymaker, he faces a fight he can never win." Now, rumours have been abounding in recent weeks, despite a next to total lockdown of information about this third special. As a fandom, we have never been probably more divided ever than in recent years. And the 60th anniversary, which was supposed to bring people together, has in actuality done precious little to really heal that. I think whatever your take is on the earlier specials, by this point, if you've watched those, it's sort of like in for a penny, in for a pound in. You may as well watch the last one. Now, just yesterday, showrunner Russell T Davies made the unprecedented move of speaking publicly on the official social medias with a video that he filmed on the set of the Tardis, and he advised that there'd be no avoiding the kind of pop culture blast radius of the Giggle, that we needed to see this. This was him doing the ringmaster thing, wasn't it? But here we are now on the other side of it, and we're sat very much in the sort of the belly of the crater of this bomb going off. Where do we start? I suppose the question I always ask myself, Ian, is, did I enjoy that hour and 5 minutes in front of the telly? So did you?
It was okay. I must apologise. My family's really loud, so I must apologise. But it was okay. We'll get to it, I guess. There's loads of things that spoilt my enjoyment. Again, it's like eating a nice chicken, but suddenly you're biting into something that's like and it spoils the whole thing. But it was Doctor Who, and the thing that I think the main problem is the special effects were big. They were really good. Special effects were really good, but it didn't justify the special effects, if you know what I mean. I think the story should have been bigger to justify what we're trying to do. And but had a bit of enjoyment in there, and it's Doctor Who, and obviously there are bits in it that they changed.
Everybody, I know this bloke, and I do believe that despite the fact that he's still not smiling, you enjoyed that.
No, it's I can't say I enjoyed it 100%. That's the problem. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. There are things in there that spoilt it for me. Just like last week's one, I did like last.
Nothing's
week's
perfect
one.
though.
Yeah,
Nothing's
that's right.
perfect.
That's right. I did like last week's one more than other people. I did, but there were things in there that just kind of just like, you're like, why would you put that in there? And it's the same thing with this one as well. But
from a point of view, or from
it's Doctor Who,
or from more a sort of fan's point of view of like, I don't like this bit, I don't like that bit, because you have got that eye as well, haven't you, for how things are made that I certainly haven't got.
Yeah, again, I mean, what do you want me to just the beginning? You want just to tell you what I thought overall?
We'll talk about. Tell you what, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the bulk of the episode first, and then we'll look at the mythology a little later on.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about, we can talk about the story. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The story wasn't very original, and the things they did in it wasn't. It was all right, catching the ball and. And then delving into the Doctor's past, they did that last week, the puppets and stuff like that, loads of different doors, which I've seen in loads of different sci-fi stuff and all that. It was all very
derivative of what
it wasn't very imaginative. Yeah, it wasn't very imaginative, put it that way. And, he stuck it all together and this is what we got, But, again, it's for the anniversary special, should have been far more better. The story should be far more cleverer. Should have been far more better. He had loads of time to think about this, Russell T. Let's face it, and this is what he's come up with. I'm disappointed. That's all I can say. I'll stop there.
I think I think your take on it is more than valid. I think depending on the kind of person that we are, really, John.
Yeah.
Some people can kind of get wrapped up in an hour on screen a little more than others, because at the end of the day, regardless of how much you are or are not enjoying what's on your screen at that moment in time, there is that thing in the back of your head, this is the anniversary, this is the anniversary, this is the anniversary. So given what Ian's just... Now, the reason why I think that Ian really enjoyed that in relative terms is because he said, well, it was Doctor Who, wasn't it? Whereas for the last 3 years, all I've heard solidly from him is, this isn't Doctor Who. Well, but this feels like Doctor Who.
It is Doctor Who, but we were talking about the Jodie era. That's when I stopped watching Doctor Who. That's not Doctor Who at all. This is Doctor Who because we got Russell T back, but it's disappointing Doctor Who. It should advance more. This should be better because he's had so many years doing it. He should have come up with better ideas, a better story. In fact, somebody mentioned in some other live stream that maybe they should have just made a 2-hour special instead of these 3 hours. Combine the money together, think of a really good story, and just like really whack it home. But they didn't do that. They decided to make.
Well, if you remember, I mean, I've been saying several years ago now, before the pandemic, I can talk about this now because it hasn't happened, but I was told by somebody the BBC. They're not there anymore. So yeah, I can say this, that the original idea was, John, that David Tennant was always going to lead the 60th anniversary of the original plan was to put him in a movie and put it into cinemas that was going to be a proper BBC film. But of course, the pandemic happened. Lots of things went awry. The BBC went awry. I understand the BBC doesn't really make movies in the way that it was planning to, and eventually it sort of morphed into this. Now, I don't know whether Russell was involved in those talks to make a movie. I suspect he probably was, but whether this was the plot line to that film, again, I couldn't say. But the fact that we did end up with David Tennant still leading the 60th anniversary in a kind of feature-length thing, that does make me wonder. But my same question to you, really, John, before we get to the live chat, is that hour that we had in front of the television earlier on, did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. I made the decision to lock off social media for 24 hours. I just wanted to go in clean, just get my own views on it and come out the other end. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was more Doctor Who-y than the other two, but I think there's also a part of it was where I was so disappointed with the Star Beast and I didn't quite enjoy last week's. I'd lowered my expectations as well. And I kind of agree with Ian where maybe a 2 hour would have worked because the resolution to the Toymaker, it was just wrapped up so quickly for me. And they could have done lots of things. You know, they could have been playing over board games, kind of like they were doing in the earlier episode.
The original story.
But it was just, you know, that just didn't feel original to me. It just felt a bit tagged on at the end. I need to get this finished. That was my
expression I've been using, John, is blockbuster. I feel that that's been the aim of this, to deliver blockbuster Doctor Who, crowd-pleasing Doctor Who, that even people who only watch it now and again or haven't watched it for a few years would recognise as Doctor Who, and to give them those kind of blockbuster thrills that they would probably get in the average kind of movie. Now, the average movie they would either go at the cinema to see or boot up on Netflix or Amazon. I think that could be what we're reading there, because and Ian, you're quite right. It was, I think, derivative with a small d. But I know what you mean. There was probably nothing in there that we haven't seen several times over. Just probably not looking this good ever before in Doctor Who. We've certainly seen it in other shows, in other movies, but not with quite this flavour, the particular flavour that Doctor Who has, other things don't.
How many times did the Doctor have to say to the leader of, I can't remember her name, Lethbridge, whatever her name is, daughter,
Unit,
don't use the freaking guns. When he said don't shoot, she's always going shoot. Do you know what I mean? How many times has the Doctor got to say that? How many times does he have to be proven right for her to bloody shut up and do what she's told?
If it isn't going to work the first 50 times, it's not going to work the next 100
this time. Yeah, and because of her stupidity, a couple of people died.
Yeah,
because of her stupidity. Do you know what I mean?
One became a ball.
yeah.
Well, even that's a sort of step forward, because in doing that, we saw that this strong female character has a flaw. She cocked up, which is a major step forward or step back to reality, or at least to the realms of good storytelling that we haven't been in for a little while. I felt that Gemma Redgrave, who seems like she's been playing this part now for about 12 years. The last few times we've seen her, it seems like the woman has been half asleep. She was very much awake here. I thought that this seemed like a pretty rounded character, John, and it's nice to see.
More of a part, actually.
So did I.
I thought she was going to. I thought, they got a new set. It looks huge. They copied the building of Tony Stark's building from Marvel, whatever Marvel show, Iron Man show. But the set look was very impressive. I mean, it's good to see Mel, even though I don't like that era. It was good to see her. She was really nice. That girl in the wheelchair was insufferable. Sorry. I can't take her anymore.
What's she doing what's she doing that you don't like? Because I
don't know.
I'm quite impressed with her. I find her quite likable.
It's not what she said. It's just her attitude towards everything. I find not believable and a bit irritating. But Mel was really nice to see Mel. And I said, I don't like that era at all, And I like how the doctor was telling everybody what's going on, because I haven't seen that done in ages. The doctor was saying, look, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. I know what I'm talking about. Listen. And they still didn't listen. So there you go.
He was properly heroic throughout.
Well, yeah,
he really did lead that very, very effectively, and wasn't pulled around by the story or by the guest cast. Say Gemma Redgrave was back as Kate Lethbridge Stewart. Shirley Bingham's played again by Ruth Madeley. We first saw her in the Star Beast a couple of weeks ago, but I personally quite like her. It's not a character I would rave about, and I wouldn't say I'm chomping at the bit to see her again. But if this character is going to recur, I don't feel the same way that I did about Osgood as I feel about her, John. I don't feel like the joke's over. You know what I mean? I'm quite happy to learn more about her over a period of time.
I will say that I was happier this week, because as soon as Kate Lethbridge Stewart was saying fire, I was worried for a minute we were going to get more rockets out of the wheelchair.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't want that to happen again.
Well, I felt that they layered the character of Ruth a lot more in this, as much as they could, because there was a lot of other things going on, not least of all the return of Bonnie Langford as Melanie Bush. And every scene with Mel, and I thought was just a joy. And I like
when the doctor asked her, "How did you get back?" she's like, yeah, she got, and also what's interesting about another little things that bother me, like for instance, right, all the girls were the doing the thing, whatever. Couldn't we not have what's his name, the comedian back who played who was that one? Who was the comedian?
Lee Evans.
Can we not have Lee Evans back? You know
Taylor.
what I mean? Lee Evans was amazing.
I think they should reach back through the history of the show and bring back some of these characters.
Yeah.
Even Ingrid Oliver. I personally, I get really fed up of Osgood. I thought she was spent, but Malcolm, I would quite happily see him again.
Malcolm should have been there.
And I really did appreciate, because he didn't have to join this dot at all. Yeah. People would have been quite happy to have just picked it up from wherever and just accept that Mel's there. But the fact that she told us that Glitz eventually had a sort of Viking funeral, didn't he? Fell over. He died falling over a beer bottle, was it, John? I can't remember quite what she said.
Right. That's right. That's great. And it's just great hearing him mentioned. I thought they would just skirt over it, but it's a nice nod back to, that era really, and just seeing Mel on screen again. Yeah,
I didn't think I would like seeing Mel again. I was never fond of that era at all, and I was never fond of that character. But I think, looking at her, she's like a woman of age and stuff, and she wasn't putting the doctor down or anything like that. I thought, good on her. Yeah. They brought her back to the screen. Good on her. Do you know what I mean? So I'm pleased.
She felt more with the writing. I think it felt Mel was a bit more rounded compared to how she was in the 80s, because. I've said it before. She was there a lot of the time just to scream, wasn't she, in the 80s?
She was,
but she's a nice rounded character that hopefully we'll see more of.
Now, Dan, we know what those bands were for then, don't we? Do you remember?
Again, really nice, really clever stuff. I really appreciated it all. And again, as an 80s kid, I grew up with Mel on the show, and I think I've spoken about it on before on Type 40 and Type 40 Live, how for children at the time who were into Doctor Who, this character and this actress came with so much baggage. She was kind of the bane of our lives, really, in the playground. But over the years, not just on Big Finish, but out there sort of representing the show, being brilliant with fans. I think Mel's been in from the cold for quite some time, so it was brilliant to see her up on screen. And Bonnie Langford, who's a better actress than ever, able to really show what she could do in the character. So I just thought every single scene with her was brilliant, and I could quite happily see more going forward. Let's go and see what people over there in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook have got to say about all of this, because I think we've been rambling on for long enough. I know they're probably chomping at the bit to tell us something of what they think of it all.
Click the buttons! Like and subscribe! Click the buttons! Click the buttons! Like and subscribe! Like and subscribe!
Yeah, these are our instant initial reactions to the Giggle, the final episode of the Doctor Who 60th anniversary trilogy of brand new stories that we've had over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Thank you, everybody, for being here there in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, and on Facebook. Tony L's in the live chat. He says he loved the scenes with Mel. Ian?
Yeah, it was just a shame, really, because obviously they were cramming a lot of people in. In fact, I would have got rid of the girl in the wheelchair and just had Mel. Do you know what I mean? It was just too many people, you know. So yes, Mel should have got more screen time, but you know, it's Russell T that he does whatever he wants. So you know, without any logic, of course. Sometimes
I suppose there's only so much time in a blockbuster that you've got. I did get the impression watching this that there are a lot of seeds being sown for the future. We do know that Bonnie Langford does return as Mel, so it's easy for us to say that, isn't it? When we know, and I would imagine that Ruth Madeley will be back too. Mega Geek, meet Mega the Extremist, who says apparently Glitz lived to be 101, which means Mel spent 50 years with him. She looks pretty good for her age. you could be right. You could be right. We have, who else have we got? Tony L joins you in asking for the return of Malcolm as well. Heather says it's sweet that Mel has a family now with the Nobles after a fashion. I think she did, because we knew very little about Mel's life, didn't we, on screen during the show, because back in the classic era, John, they just didn't dive in the way that they do now. They didn't unwrap the characters, did they?
I think all we knew at the time, wasn't it, was she was from Pease Pottage and she was a computer programmer, and I think that was the bulk of the backstory we got for Mal. I think back in the day. Yeah.
Raymond Williams says, I agree with Ian. She acts as if there's nothing to worry about. Get her a coffee and a biscuit, and she's happy. Is Raymond talking about Shirley there or Mel?
I don't know. I think Shirley. I'm not sure, but just clarify that, Raymond, for us. But,
Peter Harrington notes no Hugh Grant. No show.
I was so disappointed. and you know, the big star was somebody from Coronation Street because I don't watch Coronation Street, so I'm like, okay, who the hell's that?
Yeah,
you know, but whatever, you know. He says he's a big star. I don't, whatever, you know. Hugh Grant should have been Hugh Grant, mate. It's what
his face popping up on screen.
Yeah,
he could have pinned Stooky Hugh. That would have been good. Yeah, I like that. Tony Farrell says greetings and salutations, one and all, which it's never not appreciated. That one, Tony. Good to see you. Cybermat Strikes says, I don't know why Mel came back. Where were Ace and Tegan? Would you really have wanted to see Ace and Tegan back after the absolute cock-up that somebody made of at least one of the characters? I think Ace came out of it quite well last year, but I thought that Janet was done a big disservice with what was done to Tegan. I think that's best left in the past for now, at least for now. Digby Strawbridge agrees with you, Ian, that there was a sense of the Doctor being the smartest person in the room for this one. Now, I don't think they can do that each and every time. I think it gets old spending time with the Doctor when we only see the side to his nature that's a bit of a smart ass. But when it comes to these blockbuster episodes where the stakes are up really, really high, then it has to be the Doctor that we go back to.
No, well, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm just saying that in the classic Who and mostly in New Who, if you want to call it New Who, now it's Old Who, he was the smartest man in the room. He knew what was going on before anyone else. But in the recent years, they kind of taken that away from him. And do you know what I mean? Even in the Bacaldi era, they took it away from him. So it's nice to see David Tennant, you know, marking his territory and actually pushing things forward in those scenes. And I welcome it. You know,
I agree with that. I've always thought, you know, I like the Doctor almost being 10 steps ahead of everybody else. And it hasn't for quite a while.
Quite a while, it's true.
Because they need to write the character like that well, because when we see him in situations where he doesn't know everything that's going on, then it's even more effective. I mean, that was the thing with the Pertwee Doctor. He was so much in command the majority of the time, or made it look as if he was very confident in the situation. You knew that when he was rattled, there was really something to be worried about. I think that's a very effective way of handling the character. Talking about the smartest person in the room, we're going to bring in the smartest person in the den right now. Certainly in his den. I'm not sure. I think it's a den of one, but then again, for all I know, he may have somebody under the bed there in the nerd den. I'm happy to welcome Jack back to the show. Hi, Jack.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello, Jack. How are you?
Oh, mate. Good to see you. We're just getting stuck in. Have you had a
Jack? I'd like to ask you a question. How comes you weren't in the group with the gun and the gear? You know,
sadly didn't get the invite. Good.
where were you? For you, pal, and you weren't even in. Anyway, I take that back.
We're just going through the Giggle, as you know, there, Jack. How was your evening in front of the television earlier on? What's your gut feeling? How have you come away from that hour and 5 minutes of relentless Doctor Who? Are you smiling or frowning or somewhere in between?
Are you smiling?
I'm smiling, yeah. Even though it's it's a lot to take in.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
We're doing our level best here on the show, just connecting with people on the live chat. A lot of people watching on YouTube, Rumble, and on Facebook there. If you're in the Facebook group, the Type 40 Facebook group, don't forget to hit that little blue link. And then Facebook tells StreamYard who you are, and StreamYard tells us, and we don't have to call you a Facebook user or FU, which can often be misunderstood. Ian Gettings says here, the actress in the wheelchair was too much. That's Ruth Madeley again. I agree. People are treading on eggshells around her. Which people, Ian? People
no, it's just. I mean, I know what he's saying.
People.
Yeah, he doesn't mean it literally, but I know what he's saying, right? She's a bit. I just don't like her attitude. Her attitude seems like, you know.
At the end of the day, it's a supporting. At the end of the day, it's a supporting character.
But you would never guess it's a supporting role the way she brings herself.
Oh, I don't really think we've seen enough to take particularly against her. I don't think we've seen enough or heard enough to take against her. I think we're getting a character who we've seen some positive sides to her nature and a couple of traits that perhaps we don't like, which is why I like Russell's characters. Russell's better at building characters than Chris Chibnall and Stephen Moffat.
Yeah,
and
but
he gives us these characters with lots of different sides right away.
But like Lee Evans, right? Only took 3 minutes for us to warm to Lee Evans when he opened his mouth and he had the scarf on, he had the glasses on, and he was like, 12 Malcolms. And he just literally smacked it. Immediately when he was on the screen, he smacked it, right? But this girl, I'm not warming to her.
But it's another prime example because the Malcolm character, I only watched that a few months ago. In fact, I think we did a review of it, didn't we?
Yeah,
and that character had lots of bad points as well. There were lots of wrinkles to him, which you think, there's this guy, he needs to take a few steps back. We have 5 rings rapid, 5 rounds rapid at the chap with the wings. I don't know if he's talking about you, John. That's a bit rude, isn't it? I don't know, but happy to have Chris Lawley in the live chat. Again, as always. Electric X Bull is here as well, which always sounds a bit like an energy drink to me, Jack. Yeah, it's like the first 2 episodes. I like the first 2 episodes, but this episode is just too much. It was an overload for the senses, wasn't it? It was very much everything that Russell T Davies used to do. Ian cranked right the way up, including the use of a pop song in the actual body of the show.
I thought they were going to turn up. I thought the Spice Girls were going to turn up. I was like, "Come on, where are they?"
Would you have enjoyed that?
I would. I would have loved it. I would have loved it. It would have been
because obviously, I recognise those opening few beats, John, of "Spice Up Your Life" by the Spice Girls from back in 1997. Was it 98? I recognise that immediately. A fun pop song from a very particular time, and I just thought that was vintage Russell T Davies, exactly the kind of stuff we used to get back in the day, and to be honest, the kind of fun that I feel the show's been missing. I loved when Sacha Dhawan did a kind of Boney M thing back in something or another. It's basically the only, whatever that episode was, it's the only thing I remember about it, him doing that. And so more of this, as long as they don't do it every episode, I like that kind of stuff,
Yeah, but it works with that character, doesn't it? Because he is the Toymaker, and also, why did he have a German accent? I don't remember him having a German accent before. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Well, no, he didn't have a German accent. But if you notice the German accent, that was just something he was doing,
right,
to amuse himself. He was playing a character because to him it was all one big game. So he'd created that character. He'd slotted into life on Earth in the 1920s and set himself up in that little shop just to amuse himself. And so the German Toymaker character was just one side to him, Jack. It's because didn't the guy in the shop say, "Oh, your accent's just slipped," and when he wanted to talk to the doctor, he just didn't do the accent at all.
Yeah. To be fair, that does make sense. Yeah, because he spent a fair bit of time on Earth. Obviously, got into role playing as a human of sorts.
But the doctor was right. He said to him, you know, with all that power, why don't you just use it for good?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What is the problem here? Do you know what I mean? It's like, so the Doctor was right about that, definitely. I did like Patrick Harris. I thought he was quite amusing in the role, but I again, he didn't have enough to do.
Yeah,
he really didn't. His biggest bit was him dancing to the Spice Girls thing. I mean, the bit where he was just sitting on the chair was neither here or there. And obviously when he had all the, you know, he was in charge and had all the doors and stuff. I guess the bit where he's, you know, has the puppets and stuff and he's talking about the other companions, that was a nice moment as well. But you know, again, I think he's wasted. I think this, if they made this into a 2-hour movie, it probably would have been better, in my opinion.
We've got a comment here from Mark the Illusionist in the live chat, who says that the directing was good. Says the editing was too quick in the middle, but worked once the action ramped up in the middle. And we've got another one here from Mark Milford. So we've got 2 Marks, who says, I think the 3 stories would have been handled better in a single story.
Yeah.
In over a longer period, though, he believes, like in the classic era. So I think, people do have a problem with the format, perhaps thinking that it didn't serve the story as best as it could have done. Personally, I'm all for the serialized. I'd rather it be in parts rather than in a feature. I think that doing that, it would always have been compared, because we did that the last time. So yeah, I'm happy to have had it the way that we had it. We've got hello one and all. Boring, says boring the episode, not the stream. You know, and thanks for being here, Garbage. I respect your opinion. I don't know. You see, this is why Doctor Who fandom amazes me sometimes, because of all the things that you could take away from this episode in particular. Actually, all 3 of these. But this one in particular, there was so much going on, Jack. I don't know how Garbage could have been. I can understand why, if he was to say, that just wasn't to my taste. I hated that. But to be bored by it when visually and verbally and conceptually there was so much going on, this kind of take, it just floors me.
Well, no, look, I can understand why people are bored. If all that stuff that you were excited about, Dan, didn't excite him, you know, and it's just his opinion. And if it didn't excite him, he's being honest. That's, you know,
no, I'm not.
God bless him. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is that there is a reason why you can't understand it, because everyone on this planet's different. And they all have different tastes. So he has a different taste to you. So that's why you can't understand it. But you know, that's his opinion. God bless him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I said at the top of the show. But I'm just saying, from my point of view, it's something that I struggled to grasp that, because there was so much going on. I can understand, for example, sometimes there's so much going on screen in some things that I watch, John, that it actually just it has the opposite effect. It pushes me right away, as if they're trying so hard that I get pushed right out of it. And obviously that didn't happen with this for me. But I can see, but boredom. I think it's a very particular...
I can see people being bored with this, especially if they're definitely into classic and they're used to Doctor Who being one way. Do you know what I mean? I could see. I was bored with what was that? Oh God, one of the New Who. It's not called New Who anymore. What is it called? I don't know.
It's still called. No, that's still called. That's still called New Who. We've got Classic Who, New Who, and All New Who is the stuff that's coming up.
This is called All New Who.
All New Who. All New Who is everything from the Christmas Day episode onwards, and Bad Wolf have been telling us that in the publicity for over 2 years, and I've been mentioning it on every edition of the show for 2 years, because I know that's what they're going to call it. So yeah, that's the divide. Classic, all new.
All I will say is they better not change the Blu-rays to All New Who and ruin the
No, they won't. I love the fact that we do have fans, Doctor Who fans, who watch this show, watch Type 40 live Doctor Who, but don't actually watch Doctor Who. Like Richard Brooks here, who's dipped on the show, but he's come to watch us anyway. So it seems to me I made the right choice. On what are you judging that, though, Richard, that you made the right choice? Ian kind of enjoyed it. John certainly found it better than the last couple of weeks. I think you enjoyed it. What's your take, Jack? How do you feel? Are you still processing it?
I'm still processing it, but overall, I came away happy. You know, I enjoyed it. It was a good, even though I thought, it was very I still appreciated what we got. And whilst I enjoyed the other 2 episodes, I feel like this is what the 60th needed to be, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Without going full blown, nostalgia. It was done in the correct way, in my opinion.
In case people couldn't tell by the tone of my voice, I absolutely fucking love this every single minute of it.
Sometimes that can make you biased though if you like something too much.
No, it's not biased. It's not biased. This is I'm responding with my opinion. The same, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a bias. It's just to my tastes. Very much to my tastes.
Well, yeah, sometimes
Raymond Williams says I went into it with extremely low expectations, Ian. But as soon as the episode pre-credit scene started, Raymond could tell this was an upgrade in quality. This was a brand new director to the show, Ian. We talked a little bit about directing last week.
He did well. The direction in this, there were some nice shots in there. That was quite nice. Well, not shots, but direction wise, was quite nice. You know. So,
which shots stood out to you in particular? Because I know you are quite choosy.
Yeah, there was one shot where the camera went from one character to the next. I have to watch it again I can't remember because I remember thinking, that scene was well directed. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in there, and they pushed it and they moved it very, very fast. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, if next time I might watch it again. I don't know. Next time I'll let you know it was directed well.
Well, it was directed by somebody called Chanya Button, who hasn't directed on the show before. A 37-year-old director. Chanya Button is an English director and screenwriter. She studied at RADA, and after learning the ropes as an assistant director on the Harry Potter films, she then directed 2 feature films, something called Burn, 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 and another one called Vita and Virginia, which she also co-wrote, and then moved into television, directing the 2019 period drama World on Fire, which was about the Second World War, and then something else called The Spanish Princess, which I've not seen at all. So yeah, I did. I mean, I thought this looked pretty much movie standard, but then again, I say that I say those sort of things a lot, Ian, which you always say, oh, you got to be kidding me.
The whole thing looks nice. You know, I thought there was one scene that was well directed, but as I said, I can't remember it for life of me. I can't remember what bit it was. I remember saying that scene was well directed while I was watching it. I mean, one of the pluses is that David Tennant was good in it. You know, he was back as the Doctor. Better. He was the Doctor in this more so than the last one and the first one, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you guys agree.
Oh, definitely. He was more. I mean, I thought he was pretty heroic in last week's Jack, but it was a very different. It was very contemplative, wasn't it? It was obviously. I don't know if I'd call it a bottle episode. It probably was, because it was mostly just 2 characters, and it didn't exactly turn the Doctor inside out, but it was quite character led, wasn't it? And almost quasi-intellectual, whereas this was the blockbuster, the swaggering hero, all that kind of thing that we want the character to do.
What's her name? Did she? So when Lethbridge Stewart's daughter came towards the Doctor, I thought she was going to slap him, but she hugged him, and she didn't say something. She didn't.
I did as well.
Yeah, so she didn't. She didn't say something like, "What happened to your face?" Do you know what I mean? How comes you're this person now? She didn't say anything like that, did she?
But she's done that the last twice. She's done that the last twice as well. I think we're now supposed to look at Kate and realise that she's sort of used to the Doctor's changing faces, and
but
sort of
back
used
to the
to
old face, because she's experienced Tennant and she experienced Matt Smith, hasn't she?
Yeah,
and also Picaldi she's experienced as well. So I'm saying, to go back to David Tennant's face, why didn't she go, wait a moment, you've got that old face back, you know? But she didn't.
She might just be seeing them all the time out of sequence.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the consensus here from the live chat and see what people feel about this.
I mean, there'll probably be a big Finnish audio in a couple of years that'll explain that meet up or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at Once and Future, the series that they've been running all year, Kate's been part of that, and she was with the 4th Doctor in that, which is a kind of regressive regeneration thing. And I know that some people consider them canon, some people don't. That's an argument for another day. But, you know, you could say that they are all part of the same story. And Megan Eurobite is very much on the negative. It sounds like it felt like picking mold off a delicious piece of toast. So that means that the bulk of it is the toast. So the bulk of it was good, and it was just the odd little bit or piece you got to pick off before one consumed. Is that what you mean?
I never eat mold toast.
Yeah, I don't think I'd eat it.
No, I can't eat that.
And we have more people.
Is anyone the same as me? Quickly, I just wished, especially with that Spice Girls scene, I just wish RTD would just tone down the villains a little bit. because
he
did it with the master, and it's
yeah.
kind of like sometimes you can be, you know, you can be quieter, you can tone it down and be more sinister.
But he did it with the master.
Yeah,
14 years ago. If he does it once every 14 years, I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah.
Joe Wriggle agrees with you, Ian, that the Toymaker's defeat was a bit of an anticlimax.
It was,
Yeah.
it was. You know, what can I say? It's a shame, really.
Especially after, and I am, with hindsight, I don't think it was an anticlimax, but I recognise your criticisms of it. They're completely valid, and certainly I can't say that it wasn't there, because it did kind of go very, very blockbuster, very kind of standard, almost superhero movie like. Once that conclusion, that sort of final act, what they'd call in a lot of movies the big boss fight, or if we were talking about console games, Jack, it was kind of the big boss level showdown at the end.
Yeah, and that's how I felt, like, you know, we were going to get this like big battle. And to be honest, before going into this episode, I thought the final fight would have been in the actual toy realm or something.
It would be nice.
Me too, yeah. But I suppose the real danger, particularly, I don't think you have to have seen the Celestial Toymaker, the original story, for this to hit. But the idea that the Doctor, and this links back to Wild Blue Yonder, doesn't it? When he drizzled the salt there at the edge of the universe, it effectively allowed a passage from the Toymaker's realm into our reality. So the idea that this being is now on the Earth, not just on the Earth, but in our actual reality, and can now turn everything and everyone conceptually and literally inside out. I suppose that's the threat, isn't it? It's having crossed the divide.
Yeah. Did anyone get the Flash Gordon joke at the ending of the climax?
I did, yeah. So this is this was when off the helipad, for the people who didn't notice, there was, because it was only on screen, wasn't it, for about 3 seconds?
Yeah.
So who was it? So that's
it was the master.
It goes to the I'm talking about who was it? So the Toymaker's gone at that point, isn't he?
Yeah.
And we go right down to the base of the helipad, and we just see something glittering ever so slightly.
Isn't it his ring?
It's his tooth.
His tooth. That's what it was. His tooth. Because he said that he made the master into a gold tooth, didn't he?
Yeah.
Was
And
that
so
the
he had a
base of
little
the helipad then?
Yeah, that's it.
It was.
I was watching it and I thought it was right on the edge, and I was thinking, how has she managed to get the tooth right on the edge? She climbed up.
No, she'd done. Yeah, and so we see just a woman's hand do that. That's always really effective. Yeah, very, very Flash Gordon.
Just got this image of a woman just like hanging off the edge, just quickly grabbing it and going.
Hi, Wendy in the live chat, who said tonight's special felt like Doctor Who for the most part. I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect, but overall more good than bad for me. So yeah, the Toymaker did mention that in that tooth, there's the master, that he'd used the master, hadn't he, as his puppet, and then once he'd used him to plant something of his own creation, once he'd used him, he then just locked him away in that tooth just for his own amusement again. So the master, just like the Doctor, and just like any human being, he doesn't seem to view Time Lords any different from human beings. They're just his toys, just his playthings.
This guy could play the
Can
Doctor.
someone correct me on it as well?
Fabulous actor. Yes. Yes, John.
Did the Toymaker retcon the Timeless Children by some of what he said in the episode?
Did the Toymaker retcon
your life? So it kind of leaves it ambiguous.
It sounds like he manipulated it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you know my feeling about all this. Again, I was going to leave this until later, but we may as well have mentioned it. My feeling was, and we had Gary Beekler as a guest on the show just a few weeks ago, and he's been the most vocal, the most fervent about that Russell T Davies needed to retcon I'd say divisive. I don't even think this is divisive, Jack. I think that the Timeless Children idea, as farted into existence by incompetent showrunner Chris Chibnall, most people hated this, and the people who say that they didn't are mostly out and out liars. But during the content of this episode, I think that was a massive, massive retcon of the Timeless Children. Just as John said there, completely retconned. So the Toymaker did say, again, it was in a fleeting sentence, but it absolutely happened. So what he did, so he created that. He said, I had fun with your origins. I did that. Did you enjoy it? And the Doctor just sort of flinched, didn't he? So he used the master. The Master believed that everything that he was telling the Doctor in that terrible episode, whatever it was called The Timeless Children, wasn't it? So the Master believed that everything that he was saying was true, but that's because the Toymaker had planted it in his head. And because the Doctor and the Master, despite their rivalry over the decades, John, they are old friends. There's a point where they do trust one another, and it's as if the Toymaker, it amused the Toymaker that the way to get the Doctor to believe something was probably to get the Master to tell him. And so yes, it was completely the Timeless Child, the origin that Chris Chibnall gave us 3.5 years ago was the invention of the Toymaker, and this has been retconned by tonight's episode, The Giggle, in just a single sentence as well. And in a way which does, I feel, because the sticking point was that he didn't want to embarrass or to denigrate the work of his predecessor and friend, Chris Chibnall. And I think he has managed to kind of do that, have his cake and eat it, give us the retcon, not just that the fandom wanted and needed, but that this show so desperately needed. Because at every point throughout the rest of the episode, John, I don't know if you noticed, the Toymaker said things like locked in battle, the Toymaker and the Time Lord, hammering it home that the Doctor is a Time Lord again. And this load of old bollocks is gone.
But I hope you're right.
Yeah,
no hope. It was there on screen.
This is the thing for like the last 2 years. I know a lot of people have said, how can you do it? To get rid of the Timeless Children, you need to do an episode to retcon it. But you don't. You just do one quick throwaway comment, and that's it. It's done. You move on, don't you?
And the ultimate unreliable narrator has got to be the Master too, Jack, because he's an outlier at the best of times. If with the Toymaker using him as well. So you've heard my take, you've heard John's take. Is that how you read it as well, or was it so fleetingly mentioned you hadn't even put that together? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I didn't even put it together like this until you brought it up, Dan. So I am glad that this has been done this way, because obviously when that decision was made with the whole Timeless Child, it caused some negative reactions and stuff. And then
just a touch.
It's a little. And then it was brought up last week, wasn't it? Briefly in the Wobbly Yonder with Flux. So I was a bit confused why they've decided to do an episode later to retcon it. But if this is the way it's being done, and let's be honest, the Master, who, let's be honest, he's always known for teaming up with other villains. And like the Daleks and stuff like that. So him teaming up with a literal god and believing whatever's said to him, I mean, of course, that's literally the Master to a T. Because
he had the sound of drums implanted in his head at one point as well, didn't he? By the temporal schism, if you remember that one, Jack, back at the end of series 3, was that?
Do you get the feeling that the Toymaker is working for someone bigger than the Toymaker? He says something at the ending, doesn't he, before he folds up into a newspaper or something?
Yeah, his legions come in.
Yeah, he says something, doesn't he, before he goes into the box? And I can't remember what he said. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think you may be right, Dan, because he has the scissors, doesn't he? And he was talking about Flux or whatever it was, and he cut the wires. That was that. So you may be right. Maybe it was retconned within that moment.
Oh, it was completely. I think if you go back and watch it again during that whole puppet scene. It is absolutely and 100% acknowledged. I mean, if you notice as well, when the Toymaker puts on a puppet show, he also goes. I thought that was really cool and cute as well, and really hit home when he talks about Amy and Clara and Bill. But if you notice it and the power of that, it reminded me of when Davros told the 10th Doctor way back in the conclusion of series 4, you take people and you turn them into weapons. It was a moment like that, and Tennant's so great at bringing that tool out of the bag. You could see he was haunted by this, and he was moved to defend himself. But if you notice, the Toymaker's version of the Doctor's history stops there with Bill. So perhaps the entire 13th Doctor's era was also an invention of the Toymaker. That never happened. That never happened either, and that the Flux was. So you could. That obviously isn't stated on screen, but you could say that by omission,
Yeah.
The Toymaker invented that as well. I think we can all have a lot of fun speculating about that over the next however long.
You pick and choose.
I mean, I was just going to say the way I interpret it, because obviously all the companions post on it, they got somewhat happy endings, but at the same time they didn't. Amy got sent back in time and she had to live the rest of her life outside the time she grew up in. Same with Bill. She got killed by a Cyberman. Well, no, she became a Cyberman, sorry. Clara had to go back to Gallifrey to restore
Mate, I'm still confused about what happened with Clara.
Yeah, that's it. The hybrid.
It's been 8 years. What?
Yeah. But I think
she's living a life within the 1 second before she dies or something like that.
Yeah, going back home the long way around. But comparing those companions to the Chibnall era companions, I can understand why they weren't brought up, because they all just walked and that was it. Ryan and Graham left, yada yada.
I can't remember what happened to most of them. There's a couple of them I can't remember the names.
Yaz went back to be a policeman, I think. Didn't she?
Yeah.
Can I just say, so I was just going to jump in there and quickly say, am I the only one that wants a Master versus Toymaker episode now? Give me it, please.
Don't say that. The Big Finish will be all over that.
Yeah.
Bring it. Gaza Media is in the live chat here watching on YouTube and says, I enjoyed the giggle. And he's left a few emojis there. We've also got Alex Storer too as well, the fantastic artist, musician, all round. Yeah, he's good at pretty much everything that makes you sick. Alex says, I'm going to need some time to digest tonight's episode. I think a lot of people are.
I'd say do I. I mean, I've got to digest it as well.
I mean, it's that alien as well. That alien in unit headquarters.
What's that all about?
Something that's got to be leading to a villain as well, I think, because that was quite conveniently placed in unit headquarters, wasn't it? So
could be. Rose Kirby asks, do you think the Blu-ray is going to be different to the episode? Please, can you answer? Why would the Blu-ray be different to the episode, Rose? I don't think so. I don't see why they would do that. But
maybe there might be scenes that they cut out and they put in the Blu-ray. You never know.
Like
maybe it was longer or something. Do you know what I mean? Like the scenes that you never know. I don't know. Maybe, who knows?
Lord Thoth is there in the live chat and says, we know why this wasn't better. Better than what, Lord Thoth? I don't know. Better than what? We have the Happy Werewolf says, does the Type 40 podcast have a Discord? Using my phone is a nightmare. It writes on its own half the time. I think that's kind of your problem, Happy Werewolf. No, we don't have a Discord. Not at the moment anyway, though we have had people asking for a Discord. So, and one of us was, I was talking to one of the team about setting that up. So, but there is a Type 40 Facebook group that's been in existence for longer than the podcast has. And the podcast has been going like 6 years or so. So you can go and find us on Facebook there and interact. But we're looking at Discord as well. Glad to have you here, Happy Werewolf. Aidan McGear's in, and he says this was the only one that felt like an anniversary episode. But what's the but for? But
he was like that. But I know what that means.
Not that. Chris says there are more than 2 or 3, maybe 4 different ideas that I loved and I wish could have been developed into separate episodes of their own. So Chris feels like there was actually too much in this, and perhaps that Russell burnt his way through ideas. I suppose maybe that's what he means. Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, there was too much in this episode, and it's again, in my opinion, the whole of this anniversary should have been a 2-hour movie, because then you can concentrate on characters and you can feel sorry for them, or you can feel for them as they're going through the journey. But it seems like in this episode he crammed in so much. I'm pretty sure a lot of stuff's been cut out as well when you look at it very carefully. So yeah, I agree. I think maybe
we'll get an extended
maybe I hope
material.
So. Yeah.
Digby Strawbridge's here too. Digby, a long time supporter of us here at Type 40 and Type 40 Live. Thank you again for being here time after time, Digby. And he says the conclusion with a game of catch seems silly.
It was,
and in some respects, I think it is. But this is the kind of stuff I like. Don't want to say like, John. This is the kind of thing which I think that if you think again, and I know I mention this every time, but I do think it's important that sometimes us adults forget. 8 to 12-year-olds, when you've got a big story with all these, when you've got like Spice Girls music playing and bullets turning into rose petals and all that big talk about universes inside universes and all these huge concepts, to break it down to a match between these two basically immortal characters being decided on who can catch or drop a ball. I think it breaks it down to children, to things that are measurable for them. I think it's really important. What do you think? Am I onto something there, or is?
Yeah, I mean, I get kids will, they'll probably recreate that in the school play yard, won't they? Playing ground, won't they?
Yeah.
That'll be Monday morning hopefully it's been a success. But it could have been worse. We could have had a game of Twister, between the three of them.
That would have been awesome.
That
would have been awesome.
Maybe that'll be the rematch. Maybe that'll be for the 70th anniversary, Jack. I don't know. Jack Knight, I loved it, but if anyone hates it, I will totally respect their view. Good for you. Good for you, Jamie Knight. Happy to have you back, mate. Digby says, oh, hell, the Toymaker mentions the Flux. I still don't understand the Flux. Well, the Flux is basically an interdimensional tsunami that wiped out half of the universe. I think that's all Flux is just a fancy kind of sci-fi name for what's the equivalent of universal natural disaster that is just happens every now and then. That's how I take it, Jack. I think it is sci-fi mumbo jumbo, but we've had far more mumbo jumbo in Doctor Who history than the Flux.
Yeah. And I think like now that it's been explained in this new era, you don't even have to go back and watch the series now. You can just see it as like the equivalent of the Time War.
And why would you? Let's be honest. Why would you? So I'm absolutely fine with that. In fact, and like everybody else, again, full disclosure, I'm a huge fan of Russell T Davies, always have been. I've been as alarmed by his statements, not just on Doctor Who, but all manner of things, as probably you have over the last 8 to 10 months. But I see, in particularly the last 2 episodes, a writer who's deftly used this material to the benefit of the character of the Doctor, to take something as ridiculous as the entirety of Flux basically was 6 hours of total drivel, and he managed to channel it into giving us another wrinkle to the character of the Doctor, and so it wasn't all a complete and utter waste. So I've got to respect a writer who can still do that, who can polish such a stinker of a turd. Psychic Beat says again in the live chat, hi psychics with an X. Says, I personally loved it. I loved the episode. I love that David got a nice ending. My inner 8-year-old is happy. Shooty seemed bloody brilliant. I'm back on board. Well done, Russell T Davies. Well, that's a glowing comment there from Psychics Beats. Jack Thursby says, Ian speaks for the most of us. I feel that means that Jack agrees with you. That's why you feel that way, Jack, because you agree with Ian, and it's fine. But I think most people seem to have received this pretty well tonight, judging by the live chat. Maybe not as well as me, but I think better than Ian. Blood Briar says, no one can say that we love every episode across every series 100%. No, of course we can. And that's the beauty. That's one of the beauties of Doctor Who, Ian. That's one of the reasons why I like it. I think that one of the USPs of it, that you can tell all these different kinds of stories and kind of flirt with different genres. That does mean inevitably that by its very nature, there's going to be loads of stuff that people just don't feel.
Yeah, I know, but this was important. This was the 60th anniversary.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking generally.
I felt he felt flat on this one. But
for example, I can't stand Westerns, any Western of any kind. So unsurprisingly, A Town Called Mercy, which I know is a perfectly reasonable episode of a pretty high standard. I just found it a massive yawn. Yeah, because the very strings that it was playing on are ones that have always turned me off. I can't stand Westerns. I enjoyed
Did you not like? I thought it was interesting that the Doctor really lost his temper and took the guy and he threw him out of the line, and he was like, "Yeah, go and defend yourself." And it was what's the name? They had to bring him back into place, didn't he? What's the name again?
Ben Browder, was it?
No, the girl, the companion. What's her name?
Amy. Yeah,
Amy had to bring him back into line. I thought very interesting about Matt Smith's Doctor. I thought, but each to their own, I guess.
And Digby's picked up on that. It's interesting. The Toymaker doesn't talk about the 13th Doctor's era.
Who wants to?
Exactly.
No one wants to.
Him and me both. I'm with the Toymaker. A bunch of Wallace. The show is never coming back to Classic Who. Those days are done, unfortunately. Well, why would it go back to Classic Who? That finished in 1989. It's never going back to New Who either. It seems like we're moving forward.
Well, I think he means the tone of Classic Who. I think that's.
No, we talk about a show that finished 34 years ago, though.
Yeah, but
I'm
even
gonna start calling you Bow. I'm going to start calling you Bow because it's a reason.
Yeah, but hold on, Dan. Even New Who, New Who, had a bit of classic in there. I think that's what he means. The kind of that tone kind of thing. I think
back in 2005, people were saying the same thing back then. I don't think it's.
I wasn't.
It's pretty.
I wasn't. I was going.
Paul
McGann's Doctor Who was great, and everybody was going, "No, it wasn't. It was rubbish." I was like, "No, it was great." So you have
it's an errant lie, Corvin, in the live chat. Dan defends Chibnall. Shocker. Did I defend Chibnall? I hope I didn't. I certainly didn't bloody mean to. Indefensible, that guy. Absolutely. Apparently, he's a lovely fella, but as regards creatively, he's easily the worst showrunner in the entire world. And Raymond Williams again says the best episode since Chibnall's departure. I think the Giggle was both weird and wonderful myself, says GG again in the live chat. Megan Eurobite is speculating there about that Unit spin-off show. Yeah. If it was written like Sarah Jane, then I would watch it. Well, it would have to be.
That's why that robot's there, isn't it? Because you'll find out.
Yeah, that was interesting.
For when the Unit spin-off happens, isn't it? So
it reminded me of kind of Parting of the Ways, where the girls, she's up on the top platform, she's got all the wires in her.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of had that feel to it.
I remember now.
Down the road, you're going to see a reveal somewhere. Just.
What was the robot called anyway? What was it called? Anybody?
I can't quite remember.
Blinks, yeah.
Was it called?
The Blinks.
The Blinks. The Blinks.
Yeah.
I prefer Jimbo.
But you know what? I don't. Generally speaking, I don't go in for spoilers. Don't believe in spoiling things for people. But we are going to see more. There's going to be more Unit stuff in the next series and more robots as well. Everybody, we're in for something pretty expansive from what I hear. And just for the people who haven't quite picked up on it, yes, the Timeless Children has been retconned this evening on Doctor Who as part of the Giggle. We now have a retcon of the Timeless Children. A big two fingers to Mr. Chris Chibnall and his terrible attempted reinvention of everything that we loved about Doctor Who, and the Doctor is back to being a Time Lord again. Not that Chris says that my problem with a 2-hour standalone episode would be that it would be just as bad or suffered from all the weaknesses of these three. So we're talking again conceptually about what ifs. Of course, that's perfectly natural as well. James A. Fitzpatrick feels that this was a short, rushed episode, and it made sure that everything felt abbreviated. I think that's what he's getting at, that it sort of skipped over things. I mean, I suppose, again, as this sinks in with me, Jack, I think I realise that that they could have probably have made 3 episodes out of the premise of the Giggle alone. It was really quite strong, with lots of potential and layers, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it felt like your traditional R2D finale as well. Like this for me, or at least like the first good chunk of it, felt like the end of the first of 3 parts, like the end of Turn Left or the end of Utopia or something like that, where you're really getting a sense of like something's coming through the dark, and we're screwed basically, and the Doctor's kind of out of his depths. But I do see where James is coming from. But I do feel like there's some things that have been left unexplained, because I think they will be picked up in the new series for sure.
Yeah,
hope so.
I do think that they should have maybe just teased the Toymaker in the Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder. That would have worked a lot better, because that would be for the audience an ominous sign that something is coming. And also that I think in the Star Beast they mentioned about Rose's toys going to a woman in, was it Bahrain or somewhere like that?
Yeah,
Dubai.
That's probably Dubai. So that's been cut out, I suspect.
With hindsight, the Star Beast feels quite isolated from these two, doesn't it?
I remember a bit that's well directed now. Just came to me. You know the bit where he's telling the guy to get out the street. That shot where the Doctor's there, but in the background you can see the Toymaker dancing out of focus. And so while David Tennant is telling the guy to get off the street, you're looking at him, but then you're noticing the guy. That's what I call direction. You're noticing the guy in the background dancing. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. That to me, that's good.
And you could have had a bit of that in the Star Beast as well.
Yeah,
which would have worked great.
Bland directing in the Star Beast, as far as I was concerned. But and there were a few more bits like that as well. So whoever directed this episode, I think has an imagination when it comes to directing. So that's quite nice, isn't it? So
there was lots of it that I liked. All the stuff in the Toymaker sort of realm there at the back of the shop. I thought that was great. You're quite right, Ian. It is stuff we've seen in countless other shows and movies. And Doctor Who has tried it before in episodes like Night Terrors and The God Complex, but I don't think it ever really achieved it as successfully as it did here. It just all really worked for me. And again, I felt that David Tennant and Catherine Tate sold their sides to it very well. And the puppets were quite creepy as well. Yeah, Donna, I'm Donna and you're a goner. All that's, again, fun
the
stuff.
Thing is that it would have been far more creepier if Donna was a little bit more scared, because again, right, you can't have weak women in Doctor Who now these days, or any kind of drama. She should have been terrified of those things, shouldn't she? But obviously she wasn't, and it would have made it more creepier as far as I was concerned. So it wasn't really much of a threat to her. She just kicked it and pulled it, and
I thought she did seem quite scared, but
no, not at all.
They just didn't leave her there for 10 minutes to get progressively more teary and for the Doctor to come and save her. I know what you're saying, but again, Donna's an older person now, and she's got a family to get back to, and she's never been a shrinking violet anyway. I think it would have been one of the other characters stuck in that room. I could see what you're saying, but it doesn't.
Well, I don't know. I think Donna's not shown. The only time she was scared was when the fire was coming towards her and she was running in slow motions. That's the only time. But everything else, I think she was.
Yeah, that was spectacular last week. Yeah. I think that certainly makes up for anything that one may feel about this. Fly Highland says, I didn't have a problem with the game of catch. I had a problem that the Toymaker, this beyond godlike being, loses just because he drops a ball. Like, what? Well, the Toymaker believes in these games. Yeah. It's all part of the fun for him. And the simplicity is also part of the appeal for him. It's something that just amuses him, and eternity means nothing to him as well. He's an eternal being, and so the passage of time for us, whenever, of course, he'll be out of that box at some point in the future. It could be several millennia for him, which will be like, in our terms, a blink of the eye. It's an inconvenience for him being locked in that box, Jack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And it was touched upon a couple points during the episode, like with humanity, they base a lot of their, society and stuff off morals of like good and bad. Whereas, like you said, with the Toymaker, it's just literally down to game logic and stuff. But he relies on that so much, he won't even cheat in his games. And when Donna accuses him, the Doctor's like, no, he won't do that, and explains why.
Well, Doctor knows him, doesn't he? Because he's obviously seen him before. But I always thought he was going to be, Doctor was going to be quite clever in outwitting him, like Picard and Q. You know what I mean? Picard was always clever in outwitting him, and he didn't need a ball or any kind of machinery to outwit him. He just used his wit. So I thought the Doctor would do that. But the ball thing, I kind of threw me a bit. It was all right.
It's although we had the Trilogic game in the original Celestial Toymaker story, how the Doctor ultimately defeated the Toymaker then was again pretty simple.
Yeah.
Again, it's all broken down to something that's measurable for the children watching as well, and the idea that the character does have a kind of code of conduct. Almost is a foible, a weakness, whatever you want to call it. That also has a certain appeal as well to not to show a humanity to a character like that, but to show a
is that a real shop, by the way?
Be exploited, I would imagine.
Is it a real shop? Because it is really nice. I'd like to go to that shop. Look at all those classic toys.
I think that's probably a set. But I could be wrong. If anybody out there knows in the live chat, let us know. And Matthew Pounder felt there was nothing there for the adults. It's aimed at kids. I don't agree. I think the character development, in particularly this one and the last, actually no, in all three, come to think of it, I think it's been pretty nicely balanced towards the whole family. But again, I accept results may vary.
I also had that image there at the toy shop. I do like the idea that you've got little characters of the going, as the train goes past. Those are all people that have lost the games.
All
all these little things popped around, and they are people that have lost the games to the Toymaker. I do like that element of it.
That's interesting you should say that, because Eddie Murphy's just come out of a Christmas film, and that's the game that he has to play.
All right.
Yeah, so if he loses, he turns into a toy. He makes this deal to buy something in an old-fashioned toy shop, as far as I can tell by the trailer. So it's interesting you say that.
Yeah,
very similar plot. Yeah.
I'm gonna imagine Eddie Murphy in this now, Ian.
Yeah, but I love this store though. I'd love to go and I'd probably buy a couple of things from that store. Do you reckon they kind of put a message out there and said, anyone got any old toys? We'd like to.
Well, for all we know,
Who,
Ian, because that's what I think about a lot of movies and TV shows, and then I find out that it's all from the same prop store in London,
right, okay.
and that all this stuff's been used in a million and one movies and TV shows. But that's movie magic for you, isn't it?
It is
convincing us.
Rock and Sock'em. They should have got one of them in there, but they didn't. So there you go. There you go.
Megan Eurobite says the hallmark of a bad special is swearing at the screen. Who was swearing at the screen?
I know one BBC presenter got caught out.
Got caught out. Okay, yeah, that's yeah. Of course, I agree. It's probably something we could talk about another time. Jamie Knight agrees that we should go back to the 25-minute format, which is something we talk about on Type 40 Live quite regularly.
Well, Simon's all for that, isn't he? Simon,
he very much is. Yeah, he very much is. I didn't. Simon Ashley says I didn't like that classic Doctor Who with Bertie Bassett in it.
Oh, that was terrible.
You're a Philistine, Simon. Happiness patrol forever.
That was the worst. I agree. That was the worst, man. Come on.
Crimpling to Bloom says I had the Vlinks once. It cleared up with some eye drops. Good stuff. And what else have we got? What's this from Jamie? Is it a here have a personal head canon retcon though? No, the Timeless Children isn't. It's explicitly stated on screen. The Toymaker says, I did that. I used the master. I made that happen. I did that to you. And then he watches to see the look on his face to see how the Doctor reacts to it. So that is unequivocally now canon. The Timeless Children was completely the invention of the Toymaker, and the Doctor is a Time Lord. But my speculation about the 13th Doctor era is just speculation.
Yeah, but Dan, the most important thing is that he called the Doctor a Time Lord.
A Time Lord.
Exactly.
A Time Lord. So Gary, if you're out there, it's retconned. It's retconned.
He's opened a drink right now, isn't he? Yeah.
You know what? I'm curious though, because when that tooth was picked up by the mysterious hand, I did hear some cackling that sounded
it's like Queen. It's like what is it? Before the Queen song starts in Flash Gordon. It's a tribute to Flash Gordon. That's basically what it is. I don't know if you remember Flash Gordon with the ring. It felt like that to me. That they were taking the Mickey, basically.
And he's also going back to season 3 as well, isn't he? You know, that was done there again as a homage to Flash Gordon. So he's
and they did American Beauty with all when he was on the floor and all the petals were coming towards him.
I've never seen American Beauty, but I thought it was fantastic. It felt more like, having not seen that film, it felt more like an old Hollywood musical for me, the kind of Busby Berkeley stuff. That's more what it felt like to me.
But if you've seen
American Beauty, I feel
if you've seen American Beauty, there's a scene in it where Kevin Spacey's looking up at the ceiling and the girl is there and all the petals are falling on him and she's kind of half naked and she's pointing at him and all, so it's kind of like that's the same shot. We were looking down at the Toymaker and all the petals are there, so it's kind of like
I felt sorry for Mel, because many a time I've been on a dance floor and I've done exactly
She's spun, didn't she?
On them out of the room.
But you can tell, they probably asked Mel to do that because she's really good at dancing. Isn't she? Say, can you spin for us and we'll speed it up, darling?
She can fall and land safely. She learnt that on Dancing on Ice.
That's right,
Matthew Pounder here says the Disney unit soldier was embarrassing. There was only one unit soldier that spoke, I believe. So it must mean this guy. What do you mean by Disney? Disney. We have to have a Disney swear box, I think, on this show. But this does.
What is he wearing?
Well,
Clearly needed Jack, though, didn't it, really?
This reminded me of, though, was the fact that yet again, at a couple of points in this episode, we had the same problem we had last week. This guy was speaking at one point, and I couldn't hear what he was saying again. Because remember we talked about the sound mixing on the last show? Do you remember we talked about that, Ian?
Yeah.
Did you notice that this time? I only noticed it just once when this guy was talking to the doctor, but it was the same thing.
I felt it at the beginning. When the Toymaker was doing like the foreign accent, I struggled at the beginning to understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, there
maybe
were
it was the mixing, but the bit in the beginning, right, where Unit turns up. Jack should have been there, but hey, and they all jump out. They all jump out the van. They're all pointing the guns at the doctor, right? And I'm like, why are they pointing the guns out? And then he comes out, doesn't he? And he goes, "Doctor, we need your help." Why would they coming out pointing the guns at the doctor? I was confused over that one, but hey, such is life, I guess.
Was anybody disappointed? Was anybody disappointed that the classic doctors didn't figure at all? For example,
I was.
Well, for example, even in just the nod as part of the Toymakers little puppet show here, we've got a comment from Mark Milford who says, "I was hoping the classic doctors would have been in the back of the shop or even as puppets in the show, maybe as little details." Just as John, you said that the other people who played and lost games, perhaps the doctors could have been there. I mean, I didn't. When I was watching it, I have to be honest, I got completely immersed in it. It never really crossed my mind, but I can see why some people it would still be niggling, and perhaps that would have been nice.
I thought the best way they could have done it is when they're going down the corridors and you've got the doors that they can't open. All you needed was to hear Colin Baker, to hear Sylvester McCoy speaking from the other side of the door. Yeah. And that would have been enough just for that episode. You could then carry on and go, "Oh yeah, we've got a nod here. There's some other doctors in the room." So that would have been quite nice.
Yeah. I wished at the ending, when Ncuti was in his new TARDIS, I wish that the TARDIS would conjure up all the old doctors, or a few of them, maybe even Peter Bacaldi and Matt Smith, and they kind of like tip the hat to him, saying good luck. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. That would have been awesome, but obviously, they didn't do that. So
John is in the live chat and just says #woke. What was woke, John?
There were a lot of woke stuff. There were a lot of stuff in there that I disagree with. But I don't agree,
and I'm not gonna go over this. But this kind of #nonsense. It's not something that will be entertained on this show, John. I hope you enjoyed some of your evening at least, but don't come in here with that bollocks, please. Don't get too excited. No. Don't get too excited, Dan. I question whether the timeless children stuff is done. It's done with. It was written off quite easily there. It was explained and all tied up very, very effectively. There's no real reason to go back there again. What else have we got? I wasn't referring to the special. I thought he was banished from the universe forever, says Aidan McGear. Well, it's that kind of character, isn't it? Ranger Power says, a Superman figure. I was thinking about this earlier on, Jack. If somebody was to say, the Toymaker, I've never heard of him before, what kind of character is that? The one character that I would say to people is Q from Star Trek The Next Generation, or Mr. Mxyzptlk from the Superman comics, who in the original comics, he's like a little pixie type character with white hair and an orange hat, but he's been played by So do you know who and it is that kind of magical, kind of imp-like figure, a very fantastical figure, isn't he?
Yeah, and to be honest, I was watching the Sarah Jane Adventures earlier today for some random reason, and I watched the one, I don't know if any of you have seen it, or at least recently, the one where Bradley Walsh played the clown. I know the one you mean.
He was great in that.
Yeah, he was, and that some of the performance that Neil Patrick Harris delivered tonight, that kind of reminded me of that character a little bit, like that sinister, like character with multiple personalities. Because I think, the clown that Bradley Walsh played was meant to be the Pied Piper as well, which I thought was a nice little twist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Just to clarify, so that I don't get misunderstood. I just get. I think it's very lazy to come into any live chat just trotting out hashtags, and quite spiteful, to tell you the truth. As for wokeness generally, Destination Skaro was woke. The Star Beast was woke. Wild Blue Yonder, the opening pre-credit scene, was woke. The rest of it wasn't, and this wasn't either. So I am not denying that wokeness exists and has manifested in Doctor Who. In fact, it's manifest more than in a lot of things. But to write off this this that we've watched tonight as woke is absolutely ridiculous, and you can quote me on that. And Matthew Pounder feels that this was an insult to Michael Gough's intelligent, well thought out performance. Different version of the same character. I feel. I think that Neil Patrick Harris threw himself into this part, John. But again, Michael Gough gave us something different and quite dialed back and contained, but quite pantomime-esque, you could say. I mean, it wasn't the most sophisticated villain in Who history either.
Yeah, and Neil Patrick Harris is a great actor, isn't he? So, it was good with Neil Patrick Harris, but as I said before, I just think if they just dialed it down a little bit, it would have been so much better and more chilling.
Dial it down? You mean this is not dialed down? You mean you couldn't take 2 or 3 hours of Neil Patrick Harris doing that, could you? I agree completely.
Look at that wig.
It's pretty outrageous, and it would get grating over a longer period of time, without a doubt. But and I love what Michael Gough did, but that too was. I don't know if that was that intelligent or well thought out, because I don't think it needed to be. I think Michael Gough was employed and brought what Michael Gough did. He's always a class act, brilliant in the role, but I don't really think there was that much to the character then. And
there wasn't. And this.
I love classic Who, but I don't want to make classic Who out to be something that it wasn't either, Ian. You know?
No, yeah, you're right. It did drag that episode, the original one, that is. Yeah, so it did drag.
Corvin, back to the Toymaker again. Of course, here is the Toymaker doing his dance in those scenes. This was filmed in Bristol, on the streets of Bristol, where my son is working in Bristol at the moment, working on a movie. And I was asking him if he recognised any of these locations. And to be honest, I think I'm not sure he ever looks up from his phone or his lunch, whatever he's doing at the time. But Corvin says that the Toymaker said, "My legions are coming." What's that about? Well, that's an interesting seed again that's been sown for the future, isn't it? Because the idea that when the Doctor drizzled that salt at the edge of the universe, that perhaps some creatures, not just the Toymaker, has been disturbed, Jack, that we could get new forces, new creatures, new threats coming from beyond the known universe. That could potentially shake things up quite a lot, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. And also, just before the Toymaker started playing the game of cards, and after he said that he beat the master, he said that there was one person out there that he wouldn't play a game with, and that is someone called the One Who Waits. And I'm curious to know who that is.
Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant.
Hey, you never know. Hugh Grant.
We've been waiting 3 weeks, Hugh.
The One Who Waits is Hugh Grant.
I tell you what, we've also been waiting for a show from Miss Trinity Wells. And she was there. She was there, John. Did you notice? We finally got her.
We did. We did.
She was a bit rude, weren't she?
She was.
She's very rude.
Well, me and you, we thought she was going to be in the Star Beast, didn't we?
Absolutely.
And I'm surprised they didn't put her in the Star Beast just because of how that comic strip starts. But we knew she was going to turn up.
Dan, did Disney have because you said these first 3 was made by the BBC and Disney didn't have any hands in these first 3. Oh, so they didn't, because I thought those sets were huge and it must have cost a lot of money. I was thinking maybe Disney put on a bit of money in this one. No,
Disney didn't enter the the specials had already been filmed when Disney came on board, because they were there actually during the filming. They were being shown around during the filming of the Giggle. So they didn't actually come on board until after the specials were shot. It's believed that they did provide some cash maybe through the post-production process, so maybe they would have got some money to spend more on effects, but it would have been post-production. What I'm saying is, and this cannot be stated enough, because people Disney, these specials were happening anyway, and to be honest, the upcoming series was probably going to happen anyway, but these specials would have happened with or without Disney. So by all means, I'm no fan of Disney, but let's not be silly about it. Disney are not to blame for everything under the sun, for everything that you don't like about this. They didn't.
It hasn't even started, have they? They haven't even started yet, have they, Dan? Disney with Doctor Who? Because these ones were made by the Beeb, right? These 3
by Bad Wolf, the BBC aren't making it either. The BBC, the BBC are no more responsible for this than Disney are. Disney are distributing it throughout the rest of the world, and the BBC are distributing it here. But it's Bad Wolf and Sony that are actually making it. But nobody ever mentions Sony because people aren't as angry with Sony. It doesn't play quite so well out there on YouTube. People get really angry about the name Disney because it's clickbait at the end of the day.
They make good TV, Sony. So I'm not angry with them. Their TVs are really
for the
cool.
most part, yeah, I've got nothing really against.
The blacks are terrific.
Sony. Yeah.
And wasn't it RTD said in SFX? He said the promotional for Ncuti's first season is when Disney will go into overdrive.
Yeah, because they had that meeting, didn't they, at Disney?
Yeah.
Didn't they? Yeah, where they had the name tags on the table.
Special
And all
not
that.
going to get the whole Disney push then, or is that just going to be what the 60th has had then?
Say that again, sorry, mate. What was that?
The Christmas special happening. Is that going to get the same push as what the 60th has had, or is that when
greater? It'll get a greater push, as I understand it, because Disney have they have actually been pre-production partners throughout the entire process of the all new stuff that's coming. So apparently we're going to see, people overseas will see a big change in how Disney are actually marketing it. Like I say, it's not something I know a huge amount about, but I'm just relying on people who've been in the live chat from overseas who've said there's been next to no publicity. And in fact, people have reached out to several of us at Type 40 and said how it hasn't even appeared on the front page on Disney Plus until relatively close to broadcast time. So there we are. This comment from Heretic, I did actually answer this question just the other night on the show, Heretic, and I thought it was from you, because come to think of it, so go back and watch that stream, and we did answer that question. It's not something I'm going to go back over.
I like how Ncuti punches a switch and then the color changes in the Tardis to orange. Remember, and it's like orange, and then he changed it to white and stuff like that. These are technical things that I liked about.
I also like the 14th. Quickly, he said he walks in, he goes, "Right, no, I don't like the jukebox," and he goes back out and goes in the other one.
I love the jukebox.
We're going to come to that after the break. I had trouble hearing it at the beginning, says Fly Highland. So again, that was the scene that I noticed. Absolutely.
I didn't have trouble hearing it. I thought it was okay. The sound.
And Joe Rigel says, I remember people criticising the 50th for only featuring clips of old Doctors, if only they knew. And this is the thing. We look back now on the Day of the Doctor, and we remember it now as this huge event that everybody loved, but there was just as much criticism of the Day of the Doctor back then. I loved that, but I did have issues with it. There were things that it didn't do, and that's very much the nature of being a Doctor Who fan. I think 10 years later, with the benefit of hindsight, we've kind of forgotten that there are plenty of people that didn't like that either. So there we are.
I mean, even now, I think the 50th was still good. I mean, I have problems with it, of course, but I'll never say it was rubbish. I'll never say it wasn't worth it, because I think it was worth it. I think the 50th is much better than any of these three that's been presented to us. Definitely, I think. But,
so a great many people felt just as passionately against that as they did this. I liked all the stuff with John Logie Baird in this. I thought that obviously, whilst it's not Doctor Who history, tying it to television history, I think was quite effective and quite nice. And I probably could have done with a little bit more of that. Apparently, the idea to do this hit Russell T Davies whilst he was making his last drama, Nolly, which starred Helena Bonham Carter as Noel Gordon, if you remember, because Noel Gordon worked with John Logie Baird later in her career. And so whilst Russell was researching that, he found out a little bit more about Baird and wanted to bring some of that through to Doctor Who. So I think that's quite nice. I thought that worked quite well. So there was so much in this episode that I'm sure it'll be one that we go back to over and over again. But then again, we do with most Doctor Who, don't we? So it's only natural that an anniversary special will be just the same. My feelings are that are very much kind of lined up with yours there, John. And a lot of people in the live chat have said similar things, that the first couple, and you know how much I enjoyed Wild Blue Yonder, and I enjoyed a lot of the Star Beast. I did. I don't think that was a complete write-off for me. But they didn't feel like anniversary specials. No. This did, and it did right from the very beginning. And so now I do kind of feel, because there is a running theme in the live chat here from people who are watching this, a lot of people feel that it was a little bit rushed, Jack, and perhaps if it had have had that extra 15, 20 minutes and brought up to a feature runtime, that this could have been actually billed as the 60th anniversary special. Because going forward, I believe that in hindsight, that's what people will take this as, in the same way that they do. People talk about Remembrance of the Daleks, for example, as being the 25th anniversary story, even though it wasn't, simply because that's how it made them feel. Yeah, simply because how it made them feel. And I think people will take that away from the Giggle, that this felt special and that this felt like, obviously it's not everybody's idea of what an ideal 60th anniversary special would be and could be, but at least it did feel big. And there was some of the history of Doctor Who in there. And it was, after all, somewhat of a multi-Doctor story, albeit the kind of multi-Doctor story that we've never had before.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're going to take our designated Type 40 Live ad break right now, everybody, and come back with more talk about this latest special, The Giggle, and the resolution to the story when things all went up the pictures, didn't they? Everything went a little bit mad. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen next. I was gasping for breath, and my buttocks were indeed very, very clenched because there'd been so many rumours, and I thought they were going to. Well, I wasn't exactly sure. I wasn't sure where they were going to take us. So whilst we gather our thoughts and come back for more of that, check out this fabulous trailer, a fan-made trailer for the entire 60th anniversary series that was put out not that long ago. I wasn't too keen on the actual trailers, but I did like this. We'll see you back here in a couple of minutes for more of our review, our instant reactions to The Giggle.
I don't know who I am anymore.
Sometimes I think there's something missing. Like I had something lovely. And it's gone. I lie in bed thinking, what have I lost?
I've got this friend called Donna Noble. I had to wipe her memory to save her life. No! If she remembered me, she would die. So what happens next? The spaceship crashes right in front of her. It's like she's drawing us in.
What the hell? We've got a bloody Martian in the shed!
Don't look! He's not there. You can't see him.
Oh, here we go again.
Tate Lethbridge Stewart! What do we do this time, Doctor?
We go and kick its off!
Something entered this world.
Oh, but he is recognizing me.
Who is he?
After a very long time, something's coming by.
Make your last move, Doctor. Make your last move.
I don't know if I can save your life this time.
Your fight is with me!
The game is not yet over.
Open fire!
You're right around to me there! The show is just beginning.
Worldwide premiere!
Welcome back to Type 40 Live, your live stream magazine format Doctor Who show, here once again in the wake of that final 60th anniversary special, The Giggle, part of the event series that we've had over the last few weeks. We're comparing our takes on this cataclysmic hour and 5 minutes in front of the TV, and whether there were any sort of cloister bells ringing or simply party poppers going off as the timeless children. Appalling Chris Chibnall treatment from a few years ago was completely retconned, so that was a good thing. A lot of us were, how can I put this, disappointed at the slow realization that we weren't getting a multi-Doctor story in the form that we recognized them for this 60th anniversary. We got one for the 10th, the 20th. We even got one for the 30th. The series wasn't even on. And we got one for the 50th. Of course we did. In some ways, though, you could say that we did get a multi-Doctor story. We got two Doctors in this because the 15th Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, got this unexpected first first round, first first slice of the action. I think I'd describe it as, John. So we got to see a completely new incarnation of the Doctor, a good measure of his personality, his energy, and how he handles a villain too, teaming up with his immediate predecessor to take down the dreaded Toymaker. That was unexpected. There had been rumours about this too. I won't pretend there wasn't, because there have been rumours about this stretching right the way back to the early part of the year, come to think of it. And then turning up on social media in the last 2 weeks, talk of a regenerate. I refused to go into any of that, because I figured that whoever was reporting on it probably had only heard a fraction of a part of a story, second or third or fourth hand. I felt I was better off watching it for myself. And I believe that was the right call on my part. But should we, I suppose the first question is, should we accept this as a multi-Doctor story, John, having got the 14th and 15th Doctors back to back, facing down an enemy very much like the second and third Doctors did in the Three Doctors with Omega? What do you think?
It's a multi-Doctor story, without a doubt. It's just, it feels different, doesn't it? It's not. It
feels different this time.
Yeah, as you'd expect. But we're just quoting Donna from season 4. You're like worms, you know. So she called them all the way back then, didn't she? Yeah, it was a multi-Doctor story. I didn't expect it. I'd kept away from the rumors, to be honest. It didn't bother me too much. In a way, it kind of makes me think now that, you know, if I don't like Ncuti's era, then I can just stick with Tennant, because I'm pretty sure a Disney mini series is going to be coming with Tennant. That's a given, isn't it? But Ncuti, yeah, from what I saw to begin with, you know, very accomplished, and, you know, all I would say is put some pants on, son.
It helps, doesn't it, that the 14th Doctor wore so many layers, I suppose, Jack, that he could afford to give over a couple of those to the newly born, this fresh 15th Doctor. But when we saw Tennant, when we saw the face of David Tennant as the 14th Doctor, who we only just felt like we've just got him back. And I meant what I said earlier on. I think Tennant is a better actor than he was then, and I really liked what he was doing with the character. So I did feel sad when the regeneration energy. I wasn't expecting to see it this early in the episode. I thought we're going to get it in the last 5 minutes. So I was surprised when the Toymaker turned that cannon on the 14th Doctor and blew a hole right the way through him. Did you gasp at that point, or did you think, oh, much of a muchness?
Oh, I did gasp, yeah, because I thought that Ncuti might have just shown up maybe in the last 5 minutes or something, perhaps for like a little cliffhanger maybe to lead on to Christmas or something. But the fact that, well, once that regeneration energy disappeared, I was like, yeah, oh yeah, those leaks are true. Those leaks are true. Oh boy. But no, the way it was executed, I did enjoy it, and seeing Ncuti just get straight stuck into it, you know, diving in and, you know, playing a game of catch, you know, very, very Doctor in my opinion.
The scene where we saw it was when the Doctor asked Donna and Mel, who were sort of knelt down either side of him, Ian, did you notice it? And he said, can you pull? What are they going to do? And so to pull a fresh incarnation out of him like that, you know, he said a bi regeneration is a myth. This is supposed to happen. And I was sort of gasping and glued to the screen while that was happening. It reminded, and this is the thing about a lot of this episode in particular, but something I've had, a take that I've always had about Russell T Davies stuff, but I've felt it a lot in these specials, is that they are very animated, almost kind of Looney Tunes. His version of Doctor Who has always been very comic book and cartoon friendly. And that scene where the Doctor splits into two, that was straight out of a kind of Wile E. Coyote cartoon, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
So how did you feel about it? Did it hit you like a ton of bricks? Where are they going with this? What does this mean? Were you glued to the screen, or were you thinking, "Oh my God, they've gone too far"? Where were you with this?
I think they've gone too far. Personally, I didn't like any of this, the regeneration at all. I think it's traditional that you know, one dies and one takes over, but they obviously changing things. They changed the Sonic. They changed the a lot of things about this new, heading into this new era, and it's their prerogative to do that. I'm the jury's still out about Ncuti. I wasn't impressed.
Well, it's
with
not
what
started,
he was
is
doing. Yeah, exactly. What I've seen, the little that I've seen him in. Actually, I was straight onto Amazon trying to find out his size for his trousers and stuff, trying to order a pair of trousers for him and stuff. Yeah.
Send some
what
to
size?
him via Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't impressed at all, and I didn't like the regeneration and stuff like that. But so I think it kind of reminds me of what they did with the Sony Spider-Man. They kind of separated him from Marvel, and this is what I think Russell T is doing. He's separating this Doctor from the old Doctor, or New Who, or whatever you want to call it, and now it's going to start from this point, and right from this point. So
I loved the general shape of the story of the 14th Doctor. Ultimately, where they ended up with it, John. The idea that the old face had come back to kind of send him a message that he needed to rest somehow, that it had all been a little bit too much to show his age in that respect. So I felt that worked really, really well. And it gave Tennant a lot to get his teeth stuck into, and said something about the character that's never been said in the last 60 years. Perhaps, or at least not since Hartnell just said that one line, this old body's wearing a bit thin. I think that's the only time they've ever really flirted with it. And so it did say something that was worth hearing. But in my view, I think it would have been a lot more effective had they perhaps sown those seeds more in the Star Beast. I think with hindsight, the shape of the 14th Doctor's on-screen arc, because obviously the 14th Doctor's journey in one form or another is going to continue, but on-screen arc, that's what we're going to see. It probably would have been more effective if they'd have not signposted it, because that would have spoilt it. But because when we first saw the character, he was basically skipping out of the TARDIS like he didn't have a care in the world back at the start of the Star Beast. He didn't appear very world-weary and battered. But we did get that in Wild Blue Yonder. So do you see what I'm saying? That I think it was a place worth going to, that they could have worked a bit harder on.
Yeah, I think so. And, question for you guys. Do you think that this is Disney, Bad Wolf, BBC Studios? This is their safety net. This is their get out of jail in case Ncuti doesn't work. That they can go, well, we've still got Tennant. We can go back and do adventures with Tennant if the Ncuti era isn't successful. I just get a feeling that could possibly be involved in the decision making as well.
I'm going to say no, mainly because if they'd wanted that, they got it anyway. We'd got the Doctor. The duplicate Doctor in the parallel universe already. I think the story. I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but I think we already had the Metacrisis Doctor, and they could have just brought him back over for that if it was something so superficial, and if they really felt that they needed a safety net. I don't think that's the case. And that's the case at all. I think they wanted to do something. I think the Russell wanted to do something genuinely different with the character, and to say something genuinely different. And to also give people a bit of a thrill, because there was only so many ways that you could do a multi-Doctor story. We got the multi-Doctor element. We got we got something we've never seen before, just the same way as we got this with a hand back in 2008. Russell does like to give us things we've never seen before, but it's not something that does break the canon. It's something that we'll probably never know the science of it, because the science of regeneration is a kind of an unknowable thing, and we don't need to know, do we? It's not something they should necessarily go back to, but it just gave us a thrill. It gave us something that we didn't see coming, that we would never have anticipated, that we've never seen before, and gave us a way to get two incarnations of the character back on screen and to make a statement at the 60th anniversary about that character, about this irreplaceable character in British popular culture. So that's my long-winded way of saying no. I think I understand the cynicism, but no, I don't. When
they split, right? So Ncuti got his tie in his shirt, and where did he get his shoes from? Where did Ncuti get his shoes from? Because Tennant was still wearing his trainers, right? And
Tennant was in his socks, I think.
Oh,
Wasn't he?
right. Okay, so he got the shoes from Tennant, right? But it's lucky he got his boxer shorts from Tennant. Otherwise, it would have been a horrible.
It could have been
generation. It
So
could have been
basically, Tennant
It would have been on after 9 o'clock, wouldn't it?
It would have been quite blue. Would have been quite blue, wouldn't it? Aidan McGear says the explanation of why the Doctor has his old face didn't really make sense.
No, it didn't.
It didn't. And I think that's because they didn't spend enough time sowing the seeds with it. They gave us a pretty happy-go-lucky Doctor at the start of the Star Beast.
Yeah,
it didn't seem particularly
I
haunted.
wanted Tennant to die again, though. I wanted him to go. I don't want to go again.
You know what? I think if we'd have had a traditional thing, it would have been kind of old hat and more of the same.
No, I thought it would have been great. I wanted to see Tennant change into Ncuti. That would have been awesome. But I don't know. It just left a bad taste in my mouth when they split in two. And I was thinking, okay, whatever. What they're doing, because it's a tradition where one doctor dies and becomes someone else. But they literally threw that out the window now. So Lord knows what's going to happen to Ncuti when he changes into somebody else. Is he going to split again, or I don't know?
Well, I felt the same way about. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's they might not, but it was the same with at the end of the Matt Smith incarnation of the Doctor. We had the reset. We had effectively two generations in one. Yeah. So that lots of showrunners have messed with this, tinkered with it, played with it a little bit, and ultimately, at the time, I think because I didn't like that. I
didn't mind it.
I didn't like that, but I liked this. But if I take a step, but if I take a step back from both things, the thing I didn't like never really affected Doctor Who, and there's no reason why this should either.
Well, this one we still got David Tennant, haven't we? I mean, it's not like David Tennant died, did he?
But, and with the Meta Crisis one, because we also got this, we got another David, and that's never had any long-term effect on the show either. So everything's all fine. Tony Farrell says we've got Ncuti in his pants, we've seen Troughton in his long johns, Pertwee in a shower, and Matt Smith in a towel. So who cares that we had Ncuti in his pants?
No, it wasn't. It's not that. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not that. It's just somebody give him some pants. Do you know what I mean? He was just running around.
I think it's a bit unexpected.
John,
you can imagine. You can imagine there's like a unit soldier running towards him.
Exactly, running.
Hey
mate, put your trousers on.
John says all this Doctor Who is too much, but life goes on. John, if you think all this Doctor Who is too much, you've come to the wrong place, mate. This is a Doctor Who live stream. I think you've sort of come.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed. I was disappointed with the regeneration because I really wanted to see Tennant die again, and and Ncuti appear. But it is what it is at the end of the day. And again, I'll say this: it's a TV show. It's no point getting your knickers in a twist about it. Do you know what I mean? What's going to happen is going to happen, innit? So,
of course not. And
or Ncuti shorts in a twist.
There are some unnecessary comments from a couple of people in the live chat. I can't put those up. I think it's just ridiculous.
It's okay, People
some of it. Some personal stuff in the live chat. Come on, get a life, people.
Oh, Dan being a bit mean, telling off
I'm not
people in the chat.
What am I supposed? But you can't. I'm not telling off people in the live chat, but I can't respond to some comments which are quite frankly cruel and immature.
Sure.
And if there's got a problem with,
move on, shall we?
What can I say?
Yeah.
Let's continue to have some fun, and we'll worry about what's happening next year when it's actually on screen. And if you don't want to watch it, then take your leave of the show and don't watch it anymore. That's what a lot of people did with the Whittaker era, and I always respect the people who did that. I wish I'd have done that. I really do. But if you're that black-pilled and you don't want to know, I completely respect that. Of course I do. But let's be fair.
When Donna was saying things, about the Doctor when both of them were in the TARDIS, I was hoping she was going to say, "Well, I met up with Rose, and then Billy Piper turned up." Do you know what I mean? That would have been freaking amazing, in the TARDIS if she turned up in the TARDIS. You know what I mean? Because that would be a good end for the David Tennant Doctor, wouldn't it? That he ends up with Billy Piper's character. Something happened to the other Doctor, and he ends up with her and lives happily ever after. Basically, that would have been
Jamie Knight here. Jamie Knight here says that the split was giving me Nightmare on Elm Street 5 vibes. If anybody's seen that, that is where that's where I remember it from, Jack. That's what it reminded me of, and I'd totally forgotten.
Yeah.
And Hader says, for a second, I thought David and Ncuti were going to be walking around as conjoined twins.
So did I,
Yeah, it's gone wrong. Next episode, they're both stuck together. That'd be hilarious.
What else have we got? Sean Roach said earlier on, I'm a bit confused with David Tennant's regenerating as when the 14th Doctor and the 15th Doctor split.
Yeah.
They faced the. Sorry, Sean, I can't make head and tail of that, mate. You got. No, I don't understand what you mean.
I think he's trying to say it's the first time you've had two Doctors together in the same timeline, whereas previously, when you have a story, they normally forget each other, don't they? Once they go. Yeah. Now you've got two Doctors that are there in the same timeline. So that's what Sean's getting at.
I think I understand what you're saying. Tennant's Doctor has settled down, says Paul Shawnee. He's going to be lonely as he's 750 years old. At least now, well, he's a lot older than that, isn't he? And that was what I think that's what they were saying. It's thousands of years, Jack. Thousands of years.
Yeah. Well, remember, he had those 1,000 years when he was punching himself through the thing. Do you remember? How many years was that? Do you know what I mean?
I can picture him sat on the allotment with Wilf. I can see that.
Yeah. All right, Wilf, do you want another cup of tea, mate?
Multiverse of Tennant, says Joe Rigel. So we've now got the 14th Doctor, we've got the late 10th Doctor, and we've got the Meta Crisis Doctor. So we've got David Tennant's 3 Doctors. Joe Rigel says, I have to see Ncuti in his first episode in 2 weeks. I don't have any impressions of him from the last 15 minutes.
No, nor do I. So I'm waiting to see the Christmas special, see what he's like, you know.
So I felt I did get a certain obviously because 15 minutes is 15 minutes is a long time compared to what we usually get with a new Doctor. We usually get a couple of sentences at best. So I felt that I did get a certain handle on a side to what he's going to bring to the character. Liam Neeson's chin says Ncuti is brilliant. I'm impressed by his acting skills, and I believe he's able to stand up to villains and run down corridors with a commanding force. So we've got to get two people on the other side of the aisle there.
As long as he's not going down there with commando force, because we've already seen about his.
Mega the Extremist says 80% of the episode was great. The bi-regeneration was ridiculous in both concept and execution. And don't get me started on the scene with Ncuti using the mallet.
That was
so embarrassing.
Yeah, I thought so.
In context of this story, I think it was all part of the fun. And as I say, it had a kind of Looney Tunes vibe to it, and the cat, and with the if it had been the master, any other villain but the Toymaker, I would probably agree with you. But the whole thing got zanier and zanier, and I think if I can accept the rest, like you say, the other 80%, I can accept that, and it was visually it's no more ridiculous, I feel, than a lot of stuff that we got on screen, and I'm completely down with the bi-regeneration as long as it doesn't happen every single time.
Yeah.
But then,
imagining that mallet then, was he, because they were partly in the realm?
Something about he got a prize because they won or something like that, and through the Toymaker, and I don't know.
So he just called his wish, basically.
Claimed his wish. I didn't understand how the mallet was under the ramp of the goddess. But then again, I suppose that's the kind of the magic of that realm, that things and people are where you need them to be. If you can, because what is the power of thought, isn't it? I can't quite remember, but it's like if you can imagine something, you can manifest it. I'm still processing this as well, Jack. There was a lot in this. I wouldn't say it was dialogue heavy, but there was quite a lot in there. Yeah,
I think because they both won against the Toymaker. The 14th Doctor was like, yeah, I've won, so I want you to be banished from this reality, and he shrunk down. So I'm guessing the 15th Doctor's prize was that mallet, and he used it.
But how did they know to use the box, though? So they gave him the box, and immediately when he was flapping, is it Mel pushed the box? And how did she know to do that?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
How did she know to do that?
I just felt that he was going anyway, but if they didn't throw the box to him, part of him would still exist in our...
Well, that's why I think maybe they shot more. So maybe there was a reason.
Definitely.
Maybe Mel knew to, you know what I mean? So they shot more. Maybe in the DVD or the Blu-ray, you'll have bits that were cut out of that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm hoping. Because if I'm going to get the Blu-ray, which I probably won't, I want more for my buck. Do you know what I mean? Or pound.
Mine. As who has pre-ordered this on Blu-ray?
Not me. Not me. Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you
Well, you
keeping?
can let me know.
Are you,
Let me know.
Are you two keeping your orders, or are you cancelling? Or are you keeping? I'm keeping mine.
Them. I would say,
yeah.
I would say I wasn't keen on the last two, but I enjoyed this one a lot more. So this is why I will have that collection.
Let me know, guys, if there's clips. You know, like if there's more
4-hour version with all the multi-doctors.
Yeah,
in
that'd
it.
be great.
I think it's human nature that people like Reverse 750 in the live chat on YouTube are asking the questions that they are. Like my question is, can the 14th Doctor still regenerate?
Yeah,
and if he does he become Ncuti or somebody else? Brains will explode. They're fun ideas that we can play with in our own times, in our own heads. Maybe we'll find out one day, but for the moment,
I think
it's not for us to know, is it?
Yeah, exactly. But I think, Dan, they wanted to separate the Ncuti Doctor from what was previously known, so they can start from a clean slate. I think that is the main reason why they did it, in my opinion. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. If they want to start
where's
from a
the
new
clean?
slate.
Where's the clean slate?
So he's not linked with because like usually the Doctors die, don't they? They die
because they're
but his
biologically
Doctor's
the
alive.
same guy, and they went to great lengths, didn't they, to show you that the 15th Doctor feels the loss of Sarah Jane just the same as the and Ro. So it's the same characters, just two.
Yeah, it's the same. That's what I'm saying. So two exists in whatever timeline you want to class it as. But to me, that is a separation, isn't it, between the old and the new? And they want to start from a clean slate from the new, don't they? And go straight across. And this is something new now. This is not linked with that now because there is a clean separation, even though they're the same person. It's clean separation. Unlike the old ones where one dies and one is alive.
I don't see it. For example, I don't see it any differently to how the biological form. Because we know he had form and could touch and communicate, talk to people. The biological form of the Watcher could merge with the 4th Doctor. That was two biological entities as well.
I don't know.
And okay, only one of them existed. Again, it's sort of the same thing, but in reverse. So there was two beings that became one. Here we got one being that became two. And because I just don't see it affecting the show or the character in any way.
It won't affect the show, but I think, as I said, I suspect this is what they were subconsciously saying, that this was
people who aren't into geek culture, Ian, to them it just comes across as silly mumbo jumbo, and didn't that look fun on screen? And they can either live with it or they. I don't think
it didn't bother me too badly, at all, really. I mean, tonight, but if you go back to the end of Matt Smith's era, if we were following the rules from '63.
Yeah,
the show ends.
He'd been done, wouldn't he?
He's got no more regeneration.
So
they've changed it there, and they're changing it here. From all of the stuff over the last few months that I thought there were rumors out there about, I was quite happy with it, and it's something that I will, I'll admit I wasn't keen on watching Ncuti. I've said that to many people before, but I watched this tonight, and I'll give it a go. Let's see where we are on Christmas Day. As long as he's got pants on or he's upgraded to a kilt.
This is the first time I've ever seen Ncuti Gatwa act in anything. Never mind play the Doctor. And I see there are some people that still aren't convinced by, and this is the beauty of a character like the Doctor. They have a long period of time to either win people over or push them away.
Exactly.
That's just the reality of the situation, isn't it? I wasn't sure what to expect from Ncuti at all, and I agree with Chris Lawler. I thought he'd come across very, very strong, very distinctive, very capable, really interesting, and slightly different as well. Certainly enough to make me relatively, obviously I'm not going to go mad because it's just 10 minutes, but to be relatively confident that they have picked the right man at the right time, providing he gets the right scripts and the character gets developed in an appropriate way that is mindful of the demographic, the target audience of Doctor Who, the family audience, and the legacy of this character, this very, very special character of the Doctor. We've got a comment here from Mark Milford in the chat as well, who says, where are we? No, it isn't Mark Milford. Sorry, my apologies. Unknown 189. We've got several like this. So all the Doctors are now split and coexist at the same time. This is something that's been going, and this is one of the reasons why I refused to watch videos or listen to rumors the last week or two, because this was something I was aware that people were saying that didn't happen in this special. That's not what they were saying at all. I don't see why people would think that had happened. It's Ian's quite right. One, the Doctor has literally split into two. It has no reflection on any incarnations we've seen before, and we've got no reason to believe that it would happen again when the 15th Doctor regenerates. So I'm calling bollocks on that one. Unknown 189. What do you think, Jack?
I did see on Twitter whilst we're on break that they've uploaded one of those video commentaries for this episode, and Russell did say that something along the lines of that he believes that through this bi-regeneration, this is why, the Doctors that we saw in that Tales of the Tardis miniseries.
Okay, well, obviously, because none of us, in all fairness, Jack, I'm not going to touch that. Yeah, I'm not going to touch stuff on things that none of us have had a chance to watch or listen to, because Russell has teased that commentary, and I know that he says a lot of things in that, and so I'd rather come back to that at a later day, because I haven't listened to it, so I just don't know.
I will say in the episode as well, I just wanted to drop it in, Dan, that it was interesting where the Doctor effectively attacks the human race, and he's basically saying, you humans are good at going at each other. You're on your phones or something along these lines, social media, and you're attacking each other and all of that. I hope, and this is me trying to be an optimist, that that's him writing into it to say going forward, he's going to make it a more balanced show for the general viewer to enjoy, and
I agree with you. I agree with you, John, and this is why I won't hear any talk of this episode being woke, because for me, how he wrote this episode, rolled out that plot, and made his statements about the human race was actually really, really rounded and balanced. Didn't come down on one side or the other. In fact, he kind of acknowledged the fact that the central theme of Doctor Who, really, that the human race can accomplish great things if we put aside pettiness.
I could easily see Pertwee saying that. Third Doctor would say that all day long, wouldn't he?
I think Tennant's Doctor said that in the past as well, like in the Planet of the Ood and a few other episodes, like the Sontaran stratagem and stuff like that. He said similar comments.
Again, I'll probably go back and listen to it all again, but that's what immediately struck me. I thought, oh, this feels fresh. It's not exactly new, but it's certainly it's the opposite of what of the things that wokeists peddle, and that woke entertainment and the people who have captured all our beloved franchises from over the decades have been peddling to us for such a long time. I mean, Russell T Davies did give this interview and made this statement earlier on in the year in January, where he hit out at rubbish modern woke scriptwriters obsessed with things like ideology and diversity, rather than in loving television and in writing in that way. And then Russell went on to say some ridiculous things, which were the epitome of wokeness, and here to see that he can still write in a properly inclusive way, that he is in touch at least with the fact that it's okay for people to feel differently, and that there are greater things to debate, and certainly a better way forward. It's obviously, it doesn't mean that all the past crimes are forgiven. It doesn't mean that any doubts whatsoever are wiped away, but it at least does make me feel that he's not a completely different person. Which sometimes Russell T Davies I heard speak about Destination Scar, I thought, where has this guy come from, and what is he talking about? Because it's complete and utter nonsense. Let's get back to the live chat. The Rabbi from Another Planet is in the live chat and says, I found the whole thing underwhelming. Neil Patrick Harris was great, but the story was all too thin and lightweight for me. And the bi-regeneration was a bold experiment, which I think has failed. And The Watcher was better. How's it failed? What was it failed to do, mate? Because it's not really going anywhere that we know of. I think it failed to sell us on something that was fun and visual, and gave us a kick.
It's failed for him.
What I'm saying is, elaborate. How are we quantifying the failure is what I'm saying. I know that he meant for him because it's him making the comment here.
Yeah, but I mean, again, for me it failed as well, because I prefer the old way of doing it. But again, it's something that they want to try and something different. So you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. I found it amusing when it was stuck together, though. I thought that was quite funny. It's like, pull, you know, that kind of thing. I thought it was quite funny. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that I disagreed with in this episode. But you know, again, you know, I'll keep saying this. It is what it is at the end of the day, and we all knew that he was going to do something different. Russell T was going to do something different. You know, even though a lot of it was what he did previously. You know what I mean? So you know. It's fine. It's fine. Let's move on, I guess.
What else have we here? Heretic says, overall, I absolutely loved this episode. It was action-packed from start to finish. I thought Ncuti was a delight. He seems so much fun. His smile is infectious. Again, the vibe I got of him was very much the same way I felt about Matt Smith when we first saw him play the part, which is a massive relief to me because I was really starting to worry about Ncuti Gatwa. Obviously, it's the earliest of early days. But you know, we shall see. But I'm a lot more hopeful for Christmas Day onwards than I was this time last week. A certain sense of relief and a hunger now for Christmas Day. The By Regeneration first appeared in a fan production, says Mark Milford. Again, I'll take your word for it. Probably did. Fans are very inventive, aren't they? You know, it's a thing. It's a thing. Paul Flint felt that Ncuti was awesome. Although Brian is not a fan of the Toymaker character, but he says Neil Patrick Harris was decent. Ian Gettings says that Ncuti was all right. It was okay, nothing more. I think that's a perfectly reasonable response for a character we've only just met. Nigel David, your old mate, says he'll be good. Just give him a chance to find some trousers.
Yeah.
There we are.
He's got the wrong trousers, Gromit. Yeah.
That's going to be the season arc.
I believe, we have the search for Gallifrey. Now we're going to have the noble search for a pair of strides.
I mean, that might explain all the outfits.
He obviously found some, didn't he? Because we saw the clips from the Christmas special. So he found some. So there you go. Literally found some trousers.
I really liked the wrap up of this in every respect. To say I really loved this episode. I loved last week's, with the exception of the pre-titles sequence. But this one was a cut above for me. I thought it was absolutely excellent and a proper anniversary special that's going to prove to be quite memorable over the years. And obviously they need to follow it up because this is the beginning of something as well. The beginning of something. That aspect of this is probably more important than the celebratory angle because Doctor Who has been in a really bad place for a few years. But like I say, I'm really, really hopeful, and I would imagine I'll be rewatching this several times to get the maximum out of it. But it's like you said, Ian, when the Doctors. I mean, another thing I loved about it that another series wouldn't do is when we got the two TARDISes, where the 15th Doctor says, okay, here's your new TARDIS that I've just generated for you. And then the 14th Doctor takes one look, sees that jukebox and says, no way. And so I'll stick with that one.
Great.
Other shows wouldn't do that, Jack, I don't think. That quirkiness, that Britishness, that Doctorness.
Yeah. And whilst this multi-Doctor story wasn't, your typical where that, they're constantly bickering with each other and, pointing out each other's faults, I felt that was a more subtle way to do it because he's like, jukebox, not really for me, not really a musical sort of going. Let me just back away from that.
Yeah. Enjoyed it, says Paul Flint. He's just finished watching on iPlayer, so it's settling in. So he's on the beginning of the journey that we were at a couple of hours ago, Jack. Cybermat Strikes has pre-ordered it. He pre-ordered it. He's on board for Ncuti's season. The prosthetic head's in the live chat too. Hiya, prosthetic head. My God. Says, I think the 60th anniversary should introduce an Avengers Infinity War type storyline. Have the Doctor facing impossible choices and high stakes. We've just had the 60th. You mean that you would have preferred that kind of storyline? Again, it's a perfectly viable take. I think we've kind of had that several times before. I do think that what we've ultimately got as an anniversary thing, it is underwhelming when you look back at the entire thing. I agree there, but I'm also receptive to the idea that to have just got another multi-Doctor team up might have also felt a little bit like Old Hat too. I'm very middling on it all, to tell you the truth. Heretic's got the Steelbook on pre-order. And lots of people seem to have a good. Corvin says, good point about the parallel with the Watcher, Dan. Yeah, well, not bad at all. And Scottish Davros simply says, it's over. What's over? What's over, Daniel? You're still black-pilled, mate. Bloody hell. It's over for Daniel Leach. Glad to have you in the live chat, mate.
Doesn't want to watch anymore.
Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what we're doing next here at Type 40 Live. Obviously, we've got a new era that's about to begin in just a couple of weeks with the 15th Doctor. But for the time being, there's a lot to get into before we get to that. Which one of them regenerates into the Valyard? Asks Sir Boy of Lord. John, could you even begin to cover that?
I think I'd need to go and see a doctor if I started thinking too much about the Valyard and throwing a load of that in.
Yeah.
Well, the chat is positively jumping with messages, and I've got round to what we can. Nice to see you all, says Keegan. I hope you've had a good evening with the special there. Keegan, he says it's honestly the best episode since Capaldi left. Wouldn't be very hard, would it? But I completely agree with you.
Well, you didn't like Flux? Flux, what it was called. Didn't like that one? No,
it doesn't sound like it. Not many people, as I said, very few people did, and most of the people who said they did were pretending. I loved it, says Paul Flynn, but says kind of what we were saying a little. Perhaps it was a little short. Would have been better at 90 minutes, and because the Toymaker was defeated, I don't think he was defeated. I don't think it was that he was defeated easily, but I think the speed, I think it was appropriate the way that he was defeated. But if we could have had it over a longer period of time with more psychology, it would have kind of hammered it home really why it was right for that character. But I say there's going to be a lot of post-mortems.
It was a bit unfair, wasn't it? Yeah, 2 people versus 1. It was a bit unfair, let's face it. If you're throwing a ball at it, 2 people were going to catch it. And he's only 1 person, isn't he? So, a bit unfair. So that's why he lost.
Yeah. You could
outnumbered.
You could be right. So is this an episode that we've said we're processing it. It's a lot to take in. Is this an episode that you'll be rewatching in the coming days then Jack? When do you think you're going to get your second watch in? I'm probably going to rewatch it again tomorrow.
Probably right after this, to be honest. I'll head in the shower and then I might make up a pint and I'll watch it again, I think.
Yeah.
And then watch all the Unleashed stuff as well.
How about you, John? Are you going to go and rewatch it and see what you can glean you missed the first time around?
I'll stick it on again tonight just to see what I missed. See if it's got any layers to it.
Yeah,
well, Ncuti never any layers underneath his did he? So let's face it.
No, he didn't. He didn't, did he? But I want to hammer it home. Of course I do, that this happened after all the timeless children retconned on screen there for us on tonight's episode of Doctor Who. Some prayers have at least been answered and common sense has won out. The Doctor is a Time Lord again, and all that absolute guff.
I think some people disagree though, won't they?
The past. Well, I don't see how they can. It was on screen. It was
well, as I said,
realistically,
yeah, some people will disagree and some people will agree. So it's with everything, isn't it? Whatever shows on TV, wherever fans, there's always disagreements. But the most important thing is that we don't let it get to us, and we all welcome all the people's views and stuff like that. They're all welcome. Don't get too uppity about it, and God bless them all and all that stuff. So that's what fandom's all about. Tell you the truth. So I like to stick in that lane personally.
Of course it is. Of course it is. As ever with all things Doctor Who, this is hardly the last word on the Giggle or the 60th anniversary. It's merely the summary of the first words on the series' latest big birthday event. But what did you think? Let us know in the comments section. As always there, as you rewatch, as this cooks slowly over the coming weeks, and please watch and listen for our full reviews soon enough on Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast. Type 40 Live's own Diamond series will be reaching its conclusion too with our annual Christmas party. That's coming up this Thursday from 8 p.m. Don't miss that. Don't forget, the best way to make sure you don't forget it is to not even leave it a chance. Subscribe to the channel and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications. Then nothing will ever go wrong. Please like the video now, subscribe to the channel, and all that jazz. Keep it coming. Where should we go? I think we should go. This always cheers me up.
I'm Leela of the 17, and you should watch Type 40.
She can leave with me anytime. Anyway. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Who would argue with Leela of the
Absolutely.
17 on that?
Absolutely.
On that or anything. Ian's going to need a couple of minutes. Yes, of course he is. Well, for the final time with the 14th Doctor, it's one more thing. Yeah, we've got time to look across the view screen and up the temporal schism for our regular eye across the fan art and crafty world out there. The 60th anniversary has inspired just as much creativity within the Whoniverse as always. Lots of traditional art and digital art, cosplayers, model makers, you name it. They've been creating and throwing it up on screens, on websites, and on Instagram accounts and DeviantArt pages and everywhere. And we're all over that just for the same reasons that they are, all for the love of Who, and welcoming Ncuti Gatwa to the Doctor Who universe there with his very first caption in this strand of our stuff. I think he's happy there because he's found some trousers. Maybe Ian will have to
or maybe he's found some Jaffa cakes. You never know.
Jaffa cakes or jammy Dodgers. Yeah. Okay, so the first bit of fan art I thought it was appropriate to take a look at was this one. This is from That's Kind of Rough, and they have an art page up on Tumblr. John, I didn't even know that Tumblr was still a thing. Did you?
I've got no idea that thing's still going.
Wow,
How?
2012.
How? But it turns out, Jack, it is somewhat of a home to some great artists, as it always was, not least of all That's Kind of Rough, who has given us this take on the 10th and 14th Doctors meeting.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, nice lines,
it's good.
as we say in the illustration world. Yeah, I think, although That's Kind of Rough has missed off the 14th Doctor stubble.
Yeah, true. Yeah, 14 is looking a bit too young there.
Yeah. What are people? Oh, we've got some very nice comments in the live chat, including this Jammy Dodgers from Lord Thoth. We'll send you some. Yeah, so I believed one of my punts on the Whoniversal episode of the podcast, our 60 years of Doctor Who special, was that I thought we were going to get the 14th and the 10th Doctors on screen in the anniversary specials. That didn't happen. I was wrong. Hold my hands up about that. I thought we'd get multi-Doctors somehow. It just wasn't how I predicted. But here we are in a bit of fan art, which does dull the pain a little, Ian. But do you think with all these David Tennant takes on the Doctor, eventually we will see one or two of them on screen at the same time?
It has to be soon because he's aging, isn't he? Old David Tennant. So unless they do the effects on him, yeah. So
Well, he is aging. Budget they'll be able to do that now, I think.
Yeah.
Two Tennants, says Gigi. Two Tennants it is indeed. And Not Brian says it's the Spider-Man pointing meme. So I suppose it is. They're pointing with their quiffs, aren't they, Jack?
Yeah. Well, mind you, if the TV don't get around to doing multiple Tennants, I'm sure Big Finish will easily lock Tennant away in a cupboard to record some lines talking to himself.
And also, I guess fan filmmakers will do I guess they'll do that. I guess
Yeah, in fact, there's a big fan film coming out pretty soon that's going to do a lot of that. Come to think of it, I really like that one, and it does at least dull the pain of me getting my prediction about the specials completely wrong. Sarah and Simon, if you're out there watching, yes, I was wrong. It didn't happen. Never mind. Next up is this one from the Autistic Animator on Instagram, and this is very much their own style. I've never seen anything quite like this.
It's small.
Elongated look, very small heads on all of this artist's work, but it's so distinctive. I just really like it.
That would have gone well with last week's episode, I think.
You could be right. Yeah, you could be right. It looks like something out of a children's picture book, and I very much like that take on Doctor Who generally. But it reminds me of those pictures you used to see, or when they used to get the world's tallest man on Record Breakers with Roy Castle. Ian, do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. It does look like the world's tallest man, doesn't it? Yeah.
often look a little bit like that. But this is very much the style of this artist's work. All of the characters are very much like this. So yeah, my legs are too long, says Matthew Pounder. And, lovely, says Peter Harrington. So yeah, I think it's really just a nice, interesting style.
Yeah.
Stretchy Doctor, says Peter Harrington.
Stretchy Doctor.
Indeed. But yeah, because obviously this was the last shout for the 14th Doctor. So I thought it was only right to treat the end of this era, although it's only 3 episodes, to treat it like the end of any other era. So we've got this one too from Fizargo Luz.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
One of my favourite fan artists on Twitter and Instagram, Jack. You've seen Thiego's work before?
No, I haven't, but I really want to check more out because that looks bloody terrific. Amazing.
Nice. It's very nice.
Amazing stuff.
There's a Disney influence there.
Yeah.
It can't be doubted, but a fantastic artist with his own style. And I've always really liked the choice of colours and the grain and all that kind of thing. And it captures the spirit of the Doctors quite nicely. Their own distinctive styles. That's a really nice one added to the mix. But of course, the 14th Doctor hasn't gone the way of all Doctors, has he? But certainly his time leading the show has ended. And in his place, we've got this 15th Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, already the inspiration for plenty of fan art, not least of all this from Dan Lyles, who's a very industrious genre artist who puts out a lot of work based on movies and TV shows. A lot of Star Wars work, I think, from them too. Always with that kind of graphical component as well. So we've got the diamonds in the dead center and the tram lines too, and the brand new Doctor just simply giving us a wink. Giving us a wink there. Do you trust that wink, John, or is it far too early to say, isn't it?
Well, keep going back to it, but I prefer the wink when he's got trousers on, to be honest with you.
That's how the trousers off might mean something else, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You could be right. We've got a comment here actually from Heretic who says, I wonder if we'll start getting Ncuti cosplayers in just their boxers, shoes, and a shirt.
That's one way to get kicked out of a Comic-Con.
I've seen people at Comic-Cons wearing a lot less than that. but we shall see. Maybe after closing time. Sally Wagenblatt's in as well. I know you're here because I can see people talking to you, but I haven't seen a message from you. Oh, there we are with the world's smallest head. Good to have you back, Sally. Happy to have you here. And yes, so they're here. Ncuti Gatwa is the 15th Doctor, and there'll be lots to get into, lots to talk about here at Type 40 Live and Type 40 over the coming weeks and months as we don't just process the anniversary specials, but get ready for the brand new, the all new era. You can get in touch with us through our social media with your takes, Instagram and Twitter at Type 40 Doctor Who. And although we don't have that Discord server that people have been asking about, maybe we'll look into that next year. But for the time being, there's the Type 40 Facebook group, as always, full of regenerations worth upon regenerations worth of Doctor Who fans, who some of them are probably bi-regenerated. You'll have to go and check later on. But they're talking about classic Doctor Who and new Doctor Who, and looking forward there to all new Doctor Who, led by Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson too, of course, as Ruby Sunday. There's trailers, there's posters, there's everything coming up. I know. We'll leave that until the next time here at Type 40 Live. As always, if you're a fan artist or you know a fan artist, you think we could get their work up on our blue screen? Green screen. It's been a long week. If you think we should get their work up on our view screen to the delight of other fans and members of the panel, then please send them our way. Drop us a comment where we can reach out to them and see their work on their websites or Instagram pages or whatever else. Or you can tell them where to find us too. Tell them that Type 40 Live would love to see their work and showcase it for the Doctor Who fans out here who also love a bit of artwork. The 60th anniversary, 3 episodes now all over. The conversation's far from over, Jack. Over in the Nerd Den, you've got your own content coming out, as always. I imagine you've probably dropped some videos already, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's why I was a bit late. I had to make a few videos talking about
Let's get it out there, didn't you? Get it out there.
Oh, yes. Get it out soon as possible.
But do you think now that it is sort of over, or would you think that between now and Christmas we'll still be in the anniversary spirit?
I think
2.5
so, yeah,
weeks.
because there's not that long of a wait, is there, till Christmas? Like, is it what, 2 weeks away? Is it something
2.5 weeks? Do you think they've done the right thing, not leaving a big gap?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, was it 2015 when Hellbent ended, and I think there was a similar time frame between that and the Christmas special, if I recall. So I think, yeah, it does well. And then with the new series being on in spring, yeah, it's like 4 odd months to wait, but we'll get some marketing to tie us over, hopefully, and then there you go. We'll feel like it hasn't really been off air.
Yeah, the 60th anniversary will pass into history as the other ones have before it, and we're left with the all new this pinky purpley backed logo that's going to signify the Ncuti Gatwa era, for better or for worse. The all new has begun and will be here on Type 40 Live right the way through to see what sort of a start it gets off to, I suppose. Ian, we've followed it every step of the way, haven't we? Right from the departure of the 13th Doctor and the entire progress of the all new production. There, Russell T Davies coming back, David Tennant coming back, Shooter being cast. So to see so much of it play out at long last, it feels almost surreal, I think, Ian.
Yeah. That's all I can say. Yeah, as I said, let's see what Shooty's all about in the Christmas special. I think that might be make or break for him. But
it's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to say because, like, I would, to tell you the truth, I wasn't really impressed with him. I think he was in it for how long? Maybe 10 minutes. Good 10 minutes.
15 minutes.
I wasn't impressed, but hopefully he'll make his mark on the Christmas special.
You felt he wasn't distinctive enough, or
yeah, that, and he wasn't doctory enough as far as I was concerned. But I didn't think Bacaldi would work. When he was first introduced to him, I really got to warm to Bacaldi, even though I thought that was the wrong move for them to make. But you never know with Shooty, you never know. So there you go.
Yeah.
Looks a bit like Eddie Murphy, but hey, such is life.
Do you think that it will be a good jumping on point for the people who have come to the show since Disney Plus and might be wondering what all the fuss is about, or simply for a new generation of fans? I mean, I think the 60th anniversary wouldn't have been the best jumping on point, really. I think it's a good comeback point for the people that may have been lost along the way the last 5 or 6 years, but unlikely to attract new people. Do you think really that the time could be right for an all-new rebirth for Doctor Who?
I don't know, Dan. I don't know. I do hope that Doctor Who survives, but I can see myself walking away from Doctor Who. I really can. I think my time with Doctor Who is coming to a close, but I'm hoping that Ncuti will convince me to stay. That's all I'm saying, because I'm not really happy with the way they're going with Doctor Who at the moment. I'm an old-fashioned classic sort of New Who kind of guy. And I think they're not really giving me personally what I want. So, I'm hoping that Ncuti will persuade me to stay. That's all I can say, really.
And the 60th specials haven't soothed that for you in any way. They haven't reassured you in any way.
The first one was rubbish. The second one I enjoyed, apart from a few odd bits. This one I kind of enjoyed, but there were a lot of stuff that I didn't enjoy. So fingers crossed that Ncuti will persuade me to stay. That's all I can say about it, really. So anyway,
thanks for your contributions as always.
No worries.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. And covering all of these over the last few weeks too. I know it's been a difficult one for you.
No, it's not been difficult. I just have to be honest. That's all. I mean,
no, I appreciate your honesty. I do.
It's just me being honest. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, mate.
Over the last 2 weeks, Jack, I have felt a resurgence of a sensation that I'd almost forgotten how it felt to be excited about watching Doctor Who again.
Yeah,
I was nervously excited for the Star Beast, and Wild Blue Yonder, and again for the Giggle, and it really did remind me how I used to feel anticipating every single episode of Doctor Who, right the way from childhood until the end of, for me, it was the end of series 10, when Peter Capaldi left that last run of his. It's reassuring for me because you do wonder when you've grown up with something, and would I feel the way that Ian obviously is worried that he may feel that way. Was my time with Doctor Who over? Will it ever make me feel that way again? These specials have made me feel that way again. All three of them have, but particularly the Giggle. Where are you at the moment? Are you hungrier than ever for what's to come next and excited as a content creator? Or do you think, because the simple fact of the matter is that sometimes this show, we spend a few years with it, then we go off and watch other things and get into other things. Are you just as into it as you always have been?
I've got to say, I'm more hungrier. Not just in terms of being a content creator, but just seeing new fans come on board or old fans coming back, and even seeing segments of Type 40 with all the fan art and stuff, with more fans coming on. Just imagine in a year's time some of the crazy fan art we could be covering on here of the Doctor and stuff. I think that would be incredible, because that's the thing I've always admired of this community. There's so much talent and so much creativity, and more of that coming on. I think that'd be really cool. And I think one thing that I've been craving from Doctor Who for a while is consistency, because over the past few years, especially with Chibnall, Doctor Who was airing randomly throughout the year, where it would be random specials scattered across the year, or October or January or something like that. And it's just
it was very hard to keep the faith, and more to the point, for the casuals, it was hard for them to stay connected to a show that was simply, and this is regardless how you feel about any lead that the show's had in the last 10 years, it was simply hard for them to stay connected to a show that was hardly ever bloody on.
Yeah, and when it was going to be on, you wouldn't know about it unless you actually looked on the internet, because there was barely any trailers on the TV or anything.
It's not how it should be, is it? Not with a mainstream show like Doctor Who. And John, this is even though Doctor Who is one of the big three, still one of the big three cult properties, it attracts kind of spotters like us who will file and stamp and make lists and do all these things. And in other parts of the world, I feel very differently, because it is a culty thing there. But it can't be exaggerated, can it? How much of a part of British culture Doctor Who is, and how mainstream it should be. And it should be crowd pleasing to bring them in, shouldn't it? And be a party that everybody's invited to. But do you feel that they are close to recapturing that? How much faith do you have now in the power of this brand being in the hands of the people that it is to perhaps do that again in the coming 12 months?
I would say I'm probably between Ian and you and Jack, where I'm going to watch the next episode. I didn't like the Star Beast. I didn't like last week's episode, but I really enjoyed this one. And I just want to go back to being like you, Jack, and I want to go back to being like you, Dan. And it's like every single week I'm enjoying it. I'm sitting down, I've got Doctor Who on. It's been with me my whole life, and I want that excitement back. And I've got no doubts they can do it, but I'll just have to gauge each episode as it comes, really.
I was angry with myself after the Star Beast, John, because although I enjoyed that episode, I got a lot out of it, but I enjoyed it in spite of the intolerable, the indefensible, and what I viewed as a bit of an abuse of position of the writer on the Star Beast to push hard so much ideology and to misuse the title character in particular. So I was very much on my guard for Wild Blue Yonder, and obviously the pre-title sequence of that in the tree with the historical figure that they denigrated did nothing to make me feel better. But as that episode played out, I felt considerably better.
Yeah, I was reassured.
And the Giggle was just, for me, this is exactly what Doctor Who shouldn't be a blockbuster every time it's on. No. But this was it. This was Doctor Who properly back. This was the magic of Doctor Who. Matthew Pound is not feeling the magic, and I do feel for you, Matthew, in that case. And it isn't. It's almost though, John, an indefinable magic that's different for all of us.
Yeah, it is. And, playing devil's advocate, as a producer of this kind of show, you're never going to be able to please everybody, are you? Because everybody's got in their head how they want it to be. in my head, I wanted a giant clockwork robot tonight in that episode, but I wasn't ever going to get
wow. That would be awesome.
Like the sound of that, mate. Yeah, which one mentioned that?
Yeah.
Now I want that. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Bastard. Yeah, results obviously may vary on for every single Doctor Who fan. I think, generally speaking, I want the show to make more fans. That's what it is. And I think the anniversary event probably will have made more new Doctor Who fans, but perhaps not as many as is ideal. A new Doctor and a new era hopefully will bring more of that if it's done correctly. And if the showrunner's got a real fire in his belly, and of course it's really important that whoever he's picked to join him on that writer's bench is also reliable, formidable, and knows what makes this show different from every single other one on television. Yeah, happy 60th birthday, happy anniversary to all of you guys and everybody out there in the comments section. Thank you so much for all the comments on this instant reaction, this final instant reaction special to the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials. Lots of people seem to have had a lot of fun on these shows, and some people have said they've had more fun doing these than they have watching the actual show, which is obviously appreciated. It's not ideal, but it's very much appreciated. Just stick with us for more, as always, as all new Doctor Who continues. Yeah, we're back with our big Christmas party later in the week. So, Ian, they've got to get them in, haven't they? Get the mince pies in.
Yeah, mince pies and the Christmas tree and the Type 40 mug. You gotta bring.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done. You looking forward to Christmas, Jack?
Oh yes.
Good man.
I thought you were working for Unit on Christmas Day. What's going on?
Oh, I'm taking some annual leave, you know.
Are you?
Moonlighting.
John, Jack, thanks for coming on tonight. I hope to have you both on again sooner rather than later. It's been brilliant. Obviously, we're going to get some overnight ratings tomorrow. That's very much how it works. In fact, by the time you're watching this, they may have been released already if you're watching from the future. If you're watching from the past, of course, again, apologies for all the spoilers for the grand finale to the Doctor Who 60th anniversary event series. If you've subscribed again this week, thank you for joining the ride. More next time for the Christmas party. Don't forget, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check you're still subscribed, and all that jazz. But that's it for this time. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. We'll see you on the next one. Don't have any nightmares. Everybody, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.